Macular degeneration, or AMD? If you're over 50, then you should be. AMD impacts as many as 1 in 10 Americans over 50. Now, protecting your eyes is easier thanks to New Nordic's Blueberry Eye Supplements. New Nordic's Blueberry Eye Supplements not only protect your eyes, but help improve night vision, as well as helping to relieve eye fatigue caused by digital devices. Enjoy healthy vision with New Nordic's Blueberry Eye Supplements. Available now at Amazon.com or NewNordicUSA.com.
We're the power and power equipment. White's Farm Supply.
At Kubota, we want to help you deliver a job done right. That's why we want you to know that new Kubota inventory is arriving daily. You have work to do. We have the reliable, durable, and versatile lineup to help you do it. Visit us at whitesfarmsupply.com.
We're the power and power equipment. White's Farm Supply.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Are you a CDPAP home care user or caregiver? Switch to PPL before April 1st to ensure a smooth transition. It's fast and easy, over the phone, online, at an in-person or virtual session, or with a CDPAP facilitator. Call PPL at 833-247-5346. That's 833-247-5346. Visit pplfirst.com/CDPAP. Register today. A message from the New York State Health Department.
Before there was social media, streaming, and even color television, there was radio. Remember the golden days when you had to tune in to hear what happened to Hopalong Cassidy, or perhaps the Green Hornet? What if you could relive those days again? Hi, I'm Greg Bell, the host of When Radio Was, a show that's dedicated to the very best of radio's golden age. From classic performances by Jack Benny to tales of terror on Lights Out. It's all here on When Radio Was, starting every Sunday at 11 p.m., only on WIBX 950 and 92.3 FM. Which classic broadcast will you hear next?
First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX.
Been a pretty even keel week for you.
Yeah.
You've matured so much since your birthday. 50.
I wouldn't say that.
50. Oh, you're still the wild man.
No wildness. I haven't done any wildness in a long time.
So what do we have?
Them days are over.
Those days are over.
That was back in the old DJ days.
Pepsi Monday said it is acquiring the prebiotic soda brand Poppy.
Yeah,
it's supposedly good for you.
Is this sold locally or something? I saw that scrolling on the news last night.
Well, I think it is sold locally, but it's a national brand. Yeah.
Have you ever had it?
No, but I know my wife gets it. It gives PepsiCo a fast-growing brand in the popular functional beverage category. They say more than ever, consumers are looking for convenient and great-tasting options that fit their lifestyle and respond to their growing interest in health and wellness. Do we really think this is healthy? I guess
totally. It's 100% healthy.
Yeah.
I trust it with my life.
There's orange flavor. There's grape flavor. There's all sorts of flavors.
I'm getting RFK Jr. on the phone right now.
Oh, he's probably all for it. The brand took off in 2018 when it was pitched on Shark Tank, if you remember.
Oh, my gosh.
That's where this whole thing came from. Pepsi says, or the brand, the makers of the Poppy soda, of course, are very happy. We're beyond thrilled to be partnering with PepsiCo so that even more consumers across America and the world can enjoy Poppy, said the founder of the brand. Last year, multiple lawsuits were filed against the brand by consumers who said the products do not improve gut health as much as their marketing may suggest. I'm sure there are other ways you can get gut health. However, if there's a soda that maybe they should pitch it by saying the soda's not as bad for you. Maybe that would be a better way to pitch it.
Yeah, this soda is going to kill you a lot slower and
Yeah,
rot
there you
your
go.
teeth a lot slower.
Crew 9 splashed down safely yesterday with NASA's Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, Nick Hague, and a Russian cosmonaut splashing into the water. The parachutes deployed. This was like a perfect ending. Everything went exactly as it was supposed to. The parachutes deployed perfectly. The sky was blue. And even in the background, if you saw this thing splash down,
There was a
dolphins popped up and started swimming and playing all around.
So it looked like a Lisa Frank photo.
It was really like something that believe me, they couldn't plan it as well as it all worked out.
So it was like this.
I guess it was kind of like that, or this.
Brace for splashdown. And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
And then in came the dolphins. Cue the dolphins, and it was quite the scene. I don't know. Speaking of scenes, if you had a chance to see the video that's been being circulated online, where a Maryland man was arguing with a ticket agent at a United Airlines check-in at an airport, and cold-cocked the ticket, punched the ticket agent right in the face.
Oh, jeez.
Knocked the ticket agent right to the ground, and I think knocked him out. He's now in trouble after punching the agent in the face. Here are the passengers reacting to Christopher Critiden's actions, and it was I believe, a right hook that just was so fast, the ticket agent never could have prevented it defensively. It was a quick move. Here we go.
Unacceptable. No reason for anyone to ever punch anyone, period. I don't care.
Yeah, he's on the no-fly list.
Oh, my gosh. That's unacceptable. That is really unacceptable.
He needs to go to jail.
Well, he did. And he is in trouble, and there probably will be a lawsuit, and he will never fly again. Really will never fly again. Maybe he'll fly off to jail.
It's the phrase, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
I do understand that it gets frustrating in airports, but there's no, it's going to be what it's going to be. And the other thing is, if you see any of these, they have videos on YouTube at airports of people behaving badly. And if you look at the trend, if there's a common denominator here, the people, whether they are behaving badly or they're not, whether they're justified in their anger, the airport, the airline, the ticket agent always wins. Mm-hmm. Because the minute you begin to raise your voice, they are very quick to say, okay, I'm sorry, you've been bumped. We think you've been drinking alcohol, or we smell alcohol
under
on
the
your
influence.
Breath. And immediately you're sitting there for 24 hours.
There you go.
They have all the power. Be polite and be careful and hope to get home.
First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX.
In studio right now is Joe Rancowski. Joe, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Okay, Anthony Constantino, who says he's the guy. I'm assuming, would disagree with that. We're talking about NY21 here.
Well, I mean, you did ask him yesterday several times where he's at with the chairs. I don't think we got a full answer.
I did not. There were several questions that I had asked. Another one was, will you run? If you're not selected, will you run? I asked him that question. Let me ask you that question. If the chairs didn't select you, would you run as an independent?
No, absolutely not. It's going to take away from Trump's agenda completely. It's not something anybody should do, in my opinion.
Is your business, by the way, talk about your business in a nutshell.
So locally, a lot of people know who Mohawk Valley Materials is. And, we go way back talking about Mohawk Valley Materials from the days we sold firewood out of a dump truck.
From the day that years ago I bought
that's how we met.
Mulch.
Yes, you bought way too much mulch.
I bought a lot of mulch.
Yes.
In fact, we had an entire field in my backyard that was filled with mulch. I had nowhere else to put.
Classic story.
Yeah.
So early on, Trish became the principal in the business, and
Your wife.
100% woman-owned. My wife. Today, She holds several certifications, and these are all programs that run through the SBA as business stimulators. This is what grows our economy. There's a whole program with the SBA from the federal and the state levels.
He almost said it's a scam.
He called it DEI, which means didn't earn it. Is that what it means? I think.
Well, the DEI.
So
okay,
don't say. So yesterday we were listening to the show, and I gotta tell you, Anthony, he caused a little bit of friction in the house yesterday when we listened to that. And because a lot of people don't know Trish, she is the hardest worker in the business. If you drive by the office at 7 o'clock, she's there. But a lot of people don't realize that the first thing she does in the morning is she orders the stickers for the company. So needless to say, she won't be buying any stickers anymore. So.
Okay, so there go the stickers.
There goes the stickers.
I do have to say, somebody had said to me yesterday, before a nickel is spent, it goes through her.
Yeah, so if you call me and say, hey, Joe, what are the assets in the business? How many bulldozers do you own? And where are they? That is, I do not know. I have been demoted several times with the business. I have people who help run the business. It's kind of a family joke, because Dad and what was my position as VP is now being taken over by many people who are chief of operations, director of operations, accounting people, et cetera. There's over 100 some people, and she manages sometimes up to $250,000 a week in payroll. So the company has grown, and I have been very focused on the race. So she doesn't even know where I'm at half the time because I'm on the road meeting with chairs.
So you feel your wife certainly knows it is a legitimate female-owned business, and she plays a major role in the business.
Yeah, she could give a class on it to any other small business. She could mentor any other, not just women, but small business people. Because in the small business arena, if you've ever seen the movie War Dogs, that movie's based on building a business using federal business opportunity website, which is now called SAMS.gov. And she's the expert on it. So we have grown through these small business programs through the years, and then you grow out of them, and it works very well. It's what the federal government wants. They want to incubate small businesses in the large. You graduate, and you're competing in an open marketplace.
You messaged in yesterday and said, let Anthony know I'd love to sit with him and have a cup of coffee. What is the intention there?
Yeah, I see Anthony much differently. We are in alignment on many things, and supporting President Trump is one of those things. And I applaud his energy in the race, okay? I do, because he's got a lot of energy, he's got a lot of resources. And I'm 52 now, and the way I look at things in my 50s versus my 40s and my 30s is much different. You mature and you see things differently. I would encourage him. He spent a lot of money on a sign. He got a lot of notoriety for it, and it was a hit. Now he's got a statue, and the statue is big and beautiful. But
what is the statue?
It's a statue. It's a statue of President Trump, and it's probably very beautiful. I haven't seen it in person, but I would say this is a different world we're in. If that was me, and I challenge him, I hope he's listening. Take the statue, auction it on the world stage, and donate that money to a good cause. That's what I would do.
Okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
What would you? Let's talk about. We have news now that as soon as the Florida special elections are complete, very quickly, Elise Stefanik will be confirmed. It's expected within a couple of days. That will start the process where the governor has to set the special election, which under Republican rules will then allow, once she exits and resigns, it'll allow Republicans to pick their candidate. The way it's being done, while it almost seems as if there is a campaign going on right now, there isn't. The only real campaign is between anyone who is interested, like yourself in NY21, and the chair people in each of the counties in the 21st Congressional District. So running commercials now is kind of falling on deaf ears because it's how many chairs are there?
There's 15 chairs, 15 chairs. Counties, and one of the chairs is running as well.
And one of the chairs is running.
Mm-hmm.
Oneida County, very important in this. Herkimer County, very important. But counties beyond. You have to be a congressperson for all of the counties. Where do you stand? What conversations have you had? And how do you feel about this process right now?
So interestingly enough, yesterday, I don't know what happened. At 7 a.m., my phone started ringing. And I spent until 11. Many of the phone calls were talking to county chairs and scheduling those final rounds of interviews. The enjoyable part about this is I have a bunch of new friends. These county chairs are really good people. A lot of them are blue-collar people. They really care. And we speculate that the election in Florida will trigger the special in New York.
Yeah.
Who knows? There could be a recount. Who knows?
That's true, too. That could change everything. But right now, Axios is reporting that that's going to...
they gave the date April 2nd.
April 2nd is when they feel the confirmation hearing will begin. But again, anything could happen. They could be so close we don't know. That would slow down the process for Mike Johnson. This is really all about having enough people in seats to cast votes to push the Trump agenda forward.
100%.
Yeah. So your conversations have gone well.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Bill, I'm going to win this thing. And I'll tell you why. I've got support. There's 3 bases to cover here, first, second, and third. First base is covering with the chairs. The challenge I had early on is no one knew who Joe Rancowski was. Who's this construction guy that says he moves dirt? And over many meetings with the chairs, and I am an in-person guy. I have not spent the money that Anthony has on polls and radio and all these things. I have been going to each chair, visiting them in their hometown, in their office, in their place of business, breaking bread, driving the miles, covering all 4 corners of the district to show that I have what it takes. Those who know me here locally know that I get up, I work hard. I've been building a business for almost 20 years, so I have a reference here. Many of them don't know me, so that is step 1. Step 2, I very much feel and believe that Elise, who has done incredible things in the district, should have a hand in this, should weigh in at some point. Maybe it's a wink and a nod, maybe it's an endorsement, I don't know. And then number 3, Washington has to know. If President Trump has any issue with a candidate, I don't think it's going to happen. So he, in my opinion, this is Joe Rancowski speaking, that he has not weighed in, he has not paid attention, he has staff for that, he is letting the chairs, or I don't want to say letting, he wants the chairs, I'm assuming, to do their job, and that's put up the candidate. And they've been working at this for 4 months. Yeah. This has been going on for a long time.
And I think the Democrats have a strong candidate. If you could pick a Democrat, knowing where the world is right now with Democrats, if you could pick a Democrat that could actually accomplish something in this district, I think the Democrats have done that. So the challenge is, by the way, it's still an uphill climb for Democrats. There is an advantage, a significant advantage for Republicans, but the key is to put the right person in this campaign to run and win. If you were to lose this, I guess what I'm saying is the president, Elise Stefanik, Mike Johnson, Republicans want to make sure who they put in is going to win.
A tremendous amount of pressure because this isn't just a congressional election. This is an R+13 district. We've got a slim majority in the House. Okay, the country's still divided. Okay, we've got a lot of big changes coming out of the White House, and I think that people want. I think it was smart putting Jen Devine up because he's a blue collar worker, and he's not a political entity. He's a farmer. He's not a political entity. It's going to take someone like that to beat him.
And this is something to focus on. Once this is set, this will be the only special election in the country. All eyes will be on upstate New York here.
Yeah, I'm going to have to graduate from the Keeler show.
Yeah, that's well. Listen, I hope we've helped tune you up a little.
You
bit.
Have. You've been a great supporter, and I thank you because we've known each other a very long time.
Yeah. So I truly have. I mean, and I didn't say this to Anthony Constantine yesterday, and I wasn't grilling him because I'm friends with you. I
didn't get that impression.
I was asking him tough questions because he was making statements that, like the poll. Well, where'd the poll come from, by the way? And what does the poll have anything to do with selecting the candidate? Nothing, because it's the chair people that are selecting. So I just think these were things that he put me in a position where I had to follow up.
Yeah, and 100% he's paying for these polls. And, who's bringing in the results and measuring these polls and the results? And if they're on payroll, it's going to be skewed. And really, it doesn't matter. You have to have the support of the chairs and Washington, et cetera, et cetera. So out of all the candidates, from what I can tell, I'm the only one that sat at the round table with President Trump here in Utica. I've been to Mar-a-Lago, invited to Mar-a-Lago. There's a difference than paying to go to Mar-a-Lago. And been invited to Bedminster, and that's where I met the First Lady. So I have those circles in the Trump camp, and it's, this poll thing and all the radio, that's great, but it's not time. It's bad timing.
Now, once as you say, once you are selected, now everything changes. The district becomes everything. This is, you got to win the election. You got to win this special election.
You have to become the candidate for the special, and then you got to win the election.
And a short window, by the way.
Yeah, so it brings up another point. I don't think Washington's going to show up on the first day after the candidate is selected with millions of dollars to throw into this. It's very important the candidate can self-fund, and that I can do. I've committed a minimum of $1 million into this race. It's going to take more. But the other thing that I really have an advantage over is because I have done business nationwide. People in Congress say they're responsible for the declaration of war. They make policy that affects the world trade issues, not just local, not just New York 21. So I have those contacts nationwide that are going to want to support me financially to win the race, because it comes down to putting up millions of dollars for advertising and running the race and putting your name out there to get the votes.
Joe Rancowski, good luck.
Thanks, Bill.
We're just weeks away from getting some resolution here finally. So, and thank you for coming in person. I do appreciate that. And it's important to go to these counties and meet the chairs where they are. They want to know that if you're the guy that you're going to be representing them as well, not just this area. Very important.
No, they want to know that you can show up and help support their local races too.
Thank you. Good luck, and keep us posted.
Thank you, Bill.
Joe Rancowski, keep your eye on NY21. It is going to be the race coming up whenever it actually happens here.
Every once in a while, something that sounds too good to be true is actually, in fact, true. How would you like up to $4,000 of free windows? And when I say $4,000 of free windows, I mean $4,000 of free windows. No gimmicks or games. You don't have to buy $4,000 to get $4,000 free. You just get up to $4,000 of free windows through Patriot Home Solutions and NYSERDA. Of course, some restrictions apply, but none of these restrictions are income-based, and you don't have to sit through a long, drawn-out sales presentation. Give Patriot a call at 315-401-0440, and they can quickly tell you over the phone if you qualify or how you can get qualified. That's 315-401-0440. These aren't any windows. They're high-quality, custom-fitted windows designed to save energy and keep the cold air out all winter. Your window solution is Patriot Home Solutions. Online at patriothomesolutions.com.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. It's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is the place for skilled skydiving instructors, accomplished airbrush artists, and proficient pediatricians. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter to hire, you're missing out. ZipRecruiter is the place that's so confident it can make your hiring easier that it lets you try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. So if you want the right candidates for all your roles, ZipRecruiter is the place to go. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Mattress Express's closeout sale on brand new leftover inventory and floor models. Right now, buy a king or queen and get a free adjustable base. Take up to 5 years to pay with no money down for qualified buyers and no credit check payment plans available as well.
First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX.
WIBX.
This is Keeler.
WIBX 950 and 92.3 FM.
Now back to the Keeler Show.
All right, so on the in studio right now, in the hot seat, if you will, is Joe Rancowski. Joe, businessman, looking to vying for that spot on the Republican ticket in the special election that will be announced when Elise Stefanik steps down, and that is expected to come probably sometime in the first week of April, we're now being told. Yes. Joe was done, but we had several questions, and if you want to call in one or two, 315-736-0186, feel free to do that. We'll start with Megan. You have a few over there.
Yeah, some guy in the 315 he says, how come no congressperson is just honest and says, I'm running because all congresspeople turn into millionaires in a few years and I can retire being a pawn for my party? And it brought up a story about how I remember watching Pelosi's coverage of the state of the nation, I believe in 2017 or 2018. It was one of those years when I was just really starting in this industry, and people and all those fashion bloggers were talking about her $5,000 Chanel suit that she wore, which I was so appalled because I didn't even make half that in a month. So I'm thinking, what is this woman doing wearing a suit that most Americans don't like, that's worth more than what most Americans do not even make in a month?
I'll start by saying you chose radio. It's your own fault.
Well, that is true.
So the initial question.
The initial question is, so what the idea of congresspeople going into office?
Are you going in to get rich?
There you go.
Absolutely not. I would love to change those things. I mean, if you think about the amount of hours it takes to be a congressman during the week that you're going to put in, not only to do your job, that's the first function. The second thing is you got to raise money for your next election, right? So I know a lot of people in Congress, their weeks are 60, 80 hours a week. Where do they find time, and how would you become a multi-hundred or 200 millionaire? Like, what's Pelosi, 260-some million dollars?
Yes.
Okay, so that only comes from insider trading, is my guess. Okay, this is the way I see it. I'm calling a spade a spade. There's no way otherwise.
Most people say that you have the opportunity to make far more money in your line of. I mean, you're a businessman. Richard Hanna, you'd fall in line with a Richard Hanna who was in construction and didn't need to play those games in Washington because he was already self-made.
So really what you're asking me is the why. Like, I get this all the time.
Why?
And when early on in the race, I would get the why, and I would kind of feel like, what do I say? I could tell you the why. There's 100 whys, and that's one of them. Put honest people into leadership positions in the country and lead the country. Trump's not in it for the money. Okay, he doesn't need the money. He's been fighting his whole country. They tried to kill him a couple times. So the answer to the question is put honest people in. And what people have forgotten is that people have the power to vote. So vote the bad ones out, keep the good ones in, and term limits. I don't know anybody that needs to be in Congress at 80 years old. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
What is one of the things that is lost in all of this, and we don't really talk about it at all. The questions aren't being asked about it. Is what do you want to accomplish? I mean, there's a lot going on in this world right now. If you are the candidate and you win the race, you're going to be plopped into the middle of world chaos. It seems. What do you stand for?
The number one reason that I'm in the race is, and it took me a little bit of time to kind of formulate this statement, but I have and I am living the American dream. A kid from Pennsylvania, I bought my own school clothes. I worked on the farm growing up. I went in the military. They helped make me a man. I've had many mentors over the years. My advice to young people is, align yourself with successful people. Learn how to work hard. Learn how to tell the truth. Be honest. And you will be successful. And I've proven that. My business now is approaching, roughly, I say my business, the conglomerate of businesses that we have. But Mohawk Valley Materials started with a dump truck and now is at $50 million a year. And you can do it. So the American dream, I don't want it to die. That is the answer to the question. And I would love to be part of the solution in Washington to rid the system of corruption, align with President Trump, and make sure that when he leaves office, because this is it, he's done, that he has the team in place to follow on and carry on with his policy, his agenda, and continue to make America great.
Because what we do see often is, depending on we go, a president comes in, policies. That president leaves, those policies are reversed, and it's almost like a yo-yo effect when Democrats have control, and then when Republicans have
and think about this. So that's why we have to win. We have to be pro-business. The biggest issue with the country is we have inflation. The dollar's worth, I think it's worth 50 cents on a dollar. You cash your paycheck, you made $1, you pay 35 to 40% in tax, and then you go down the street and you buy a gallon of gas with another 13% tax on it, and then the price of eggs are up. What is the dollar really worth? If we become energy independent, which we were on that path with Trump, and then look what happened. We got to go back to energy independence, because even if inflation's high, if the dollar's worth 80 cents and you get more out of your dollar, we've won. And you can't have manufacturing leave and then invite them back and then leave when it doesn't work. Trump has to leave this term and bring manufacturing back to stay. That has to happen.
Megan.
The Guild OBS asks, what are your views on supporting law enforcement in the district?
You're a former cop.
A former cop, all right? So let's just not talk about law enforcement. Let's talk about first responders. From the time that the police officer makes the arrest, till the time that person ends up going through the court system and maybe potentially incarcerated, all those people are key, and we're losing them. We're not paying them enough. They don't have good policy. They're being attacked. These CEOs it's incredible
what has happened in the prison system is just terrible.
When you drive down the road, you think about maybe getting pulled over, you see a cop. Nobody thinks about the CEOs. Nobody thinks about the paramedics or the ambulance drivers or the people who are trained to take care of you. The one thing that I would champion, and I would do this immediately, is work on some type of reciprocity for first responders nationwide. So if you're a state trooper in Pennsylvania and you want to transfer to, Idaho, you have some way to do that because you're already trained. We don't have any of that now. It's a shame because it's the same bad guy in Idaho that it is in New York State.
Yeah.
So that would benefit the country.
And that seems to go all the way to the top. We are still a country where I thought we would have learned from 9/11. We're still a country where the agencies do not talk to each other. And
they can't.
Just if you look at what happened, how that kid was able to get so close to Trump and get a shot off, and somehow was allowed to climb on top of that building. You had police officers with reports trying to report it, and it couldn't. There wasn't a network built to be able to communicate properly from agency to agency.
Let me put that in perspective for you. On that scene, right, we had that problem. But I can put you in Italy tomorrow. You can swipe your credit card, and they'll take the money out of your account, and that technology exists. Is that ridiculous or what?
I know. Think about it.
But we couldn't communicate on the scene.
Anything else?
Oh, well, my question is, if elected into office, how are you going to bridge the divide? Because a new poll came out yesterday that the number one Democrats' modus operandi, let's say, is to go against the Republicans no matter what. And it seems that's happening on the other side as well. How are you going to work and reach across the aisle to get stuff done? Because right now we're seeing a lot of hitting the head against the wall and not a lot of unity.
Love it. So you're talking to a guy that's been trained to interrogate and interview and negotiate on the street as a police officer. And that is tough to do with criminals. In the House, and my understanding is back in the day, the Democrats and the Republicans would sit amongst each other. If you take a picture of the Congress today, one side of the House is Republican, the other's Democrat. The first thing I would do is I would say, we've got to sit together. What do you do with people who don't get along? You put them in a room, you make them do an activity. I don't think they even have lunch anymore together, right? It's this war that we have in America. Democrats, and I have Democrats in my family, and you have to get along, and we can talk about things. That's the first thing I would do is I would reorganize the way they even sit in Congress.
Joe, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for staying longer. We're going to know a lot more in a couple of weeks, and we'll see where all of this goes.
Thanks for having me.
Mattress Express's closeout sale on brand new leftover inventory and floor models. Right now, buy a king or queen and get a free adjustable base. Take up to 5 years to pay with no money down for qualified buyers and no credit check payment plans available as well.
This is Anthony Constantino, CEO of Sticker Mule. I'm a proud Trump supporter, running for Congress for the seat being vacated by Elise Stefanik. I built a successful internet company with nearly 1,000 people in upstate New York. However, Much of upstate New York suffers from lack of access to high-speed internet that's necessary to build great companies and enable high-paying remote jobs. In fact, much of our district lacks access to strong, dependable cell phone service too. Of course, we must have both for public safety and to grow the economy. When elected to Congress, I will work quickly with President Trump to fix this problem. With high-speed internet, dependable cell service, and by renewing President Trump's tax cuts, both for businesses and individuals, we will create jobs and return economic prosperity to upstate New York. Follow me, Anthony Constantino, on Facebook today to learn more about my plans to make New York great again. I'm Anthony Constantino, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Constantino for Congress.
Fix all your fender benders, small or big. Call Malgeri's Auto Body before you call your insurance company. Let Malgeri's take care of everything from start to finish. They work with all major providers and use factory paint and parts, plus laser measuring to make your vehicle new again. It's 100% guaranteed, and Malgeri's always details your car before they return it. Malgeri's Auto Body, now located at 1216 Bleecker Street, Utica. Call 315-735-4488, keeping you on the road since 1928.
Think you know history? Think again. Journey through time and explore rare, one-of-a-kind artifacts that span from the Revolutionary War to present day. Don't just read about history. Experience it at Sticks and Stones Museum in West Winfield. Open Sunday 10 to 3.
First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX.
Here he is, Ryan Nobles with NBC. Ryan, good morning.
Here I am. Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Well, listen, I want to ask you first, because we won't get to it because there's so much going on. How do you feel about this year's New York Mets?
Well, I feel really good, but I'm a little nervous that they've got a lot of injuries heading into the season. You got Alvarez, you got a couple pitchers that are down, McNeil. I thought their depth was going to be their strength leading into the season, and so I'm a little nervous about that because I like to get off to a strong start. What the Mets sometimes do is have kind of a rough April, and then that comes back to haunt them in August. But I think on balance, you've got to feel pretty optimistic about this team. 1 through 9, that's as good a lineup as there is in baseball. I think there's certainly going to be some questions about the starting pitching and the bullpen, but
I worry about.
I feel pretty good.
I worry about which Diaz will we get this year.
Yeah, I think that Diaz has been, pretty reliable. He's been a net positive overall. And by the end of the season, he was pretty consistent last year. It was a big reason that they went as far in the playoffs as they did. I think it's to be expected that he had a bit of a rough start because of coming off the injury.
Yeah.
But, every year older these guys get, a little less predictable they might be. So I think you have reason to be cautious. As my father-in-law, John Kirkpatrick, who's never liked a Mets closer, he's always worried about the ninth inning when it comes to the New York Mets, no matter who is on the rubber.
I agree, completely agree. And let's just hope we avoid our vicious cycle. You and I have the same horrible cycle. By August, we're saying, the Bills are coming up. This is going to be their year. And by, usually by January, we're like, well, the Mets are going to be playing in a couple of months. This is going to be our year.
The Mets gave us a lot longer of a season last year than we ever anticipated.
They did.
So we can't complain too much.
You're absolutely right.
But, the payroll is through the roof. There's no excuses this year. They're definitely all in, and they're in a very, very competitive division. So it'll be a dogfight for sure.
All right. Let's go to the world of which revolves around Washington. Where do you want to start? It's just the storylines are plentiful.
Yeah, so the story that I'm really focused on is the future of the Democratic Party. I think this showdown last weekend over the possibility of a government shutdown and the way that Democrats played their hand here revealed a lot of issues that have been bubbling under the surface for quite some time after Kamala Harris's loss that have now kind of come to bear in a very dramatic way. And the Democratic Party, I think, is at a crossroads here where they have an opportunity to seize kind of the angst that exists in the country right now, or they have a chance to just continue to hand Donald Trump power, which is basically what they've done for the past year. When you look at the polling, I think I'm sure this is the case with a lot of your listeners. People really don't think of themselves as a Republican or a Democrat, the same way they did 15 years ago, 20 years ago, even 30 years ago. More and more Americans are tending to, view the world through the issue set that they care about. If they care a lot about immigration, they tend to pick a candidate based on that. If they care a lot about the economy, they tend to pick a candidate based on that. And what we're seeing right now is there is a lot of anxiety among American people about kind of the wealthy class taking over the country and kind of keeping the middle and lower class of America under their thumb. And that's kind of an anxiety that Donald Trump really tapped into, and it was a big part of his success in this last election. But his policy decisions to start this administration haven't necessarily reflected addressing that need. He said that there could potentially be a recession. He slapped these huge tariffs on our best trading partners, which could lead to higher prices. You've got basic metrics like the price of gas and the price of eggs that are through the roof. And while there's a lot of people that are concerned, Donald Trump's best numbers used to be his handling of the economy, and those have dropped off a cliff. It's not as though that reliability and that trust has been transferred to Democrats. The Democratic Party is as low in polling as they've ever been. I think our poll over the weekend had them with a 27% approval rating, which is
think
just
about that.
abysmal.
Yeah.
So what are the Democrats going to do? And, I'm actually working on a story that we're hopefully going to post on NBCnews.com this week about who the next leaders of the Democratic Party are. And more, what the people I'm talking to are saying is that this cannot be an issue of right versus left, of Democrat versus Republican. It's really, it was described to me as a fight between the top versus the bottom. And whoever in the Democratic Party can capture that energy and that anger that exists right now among average Americans who feel that they just are not been given an opportunity to get ahead, well, that's going to be the next leader of the Democratic Party. And who that is and whether or not they're going to be able to match Donald Trump or whoever comes after him, I think is a big, big question that's got to be answered here over the next couple of months.
It is a different look. Interestingly, in the 21st, which, by the way, all eyes will be on upstate New York, in April, May, and even the beginning of June, depending on when this special election is, because Florida will be done with theirs, and the last special election to be held will be up here, Elise Stefanik's seat. And it's interesting.
Especially because she hasn't even resigned yet, the Senate has been dragging her confirmation, yes.
It is. They're expecting now that to happen maybe August 2nd, 3rd, 4th, somewhere in that range, that week anyway. Once the Florida elections are over. But if you look at the Democratic candidate that they chose in the 21st, remember, it's a very rural district, heavy Republican, and they chose a farmer who, if you looked at him, I think you could easily say, well, I think he's got to be a Republican. So they may be making those moves right now in changing, I think, the response after the speech the other night by the Democrats. I think they're beginning to make a move away from the face being, Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, the overwhelming sense I'm getting from the folks that I'm talking to is that it's time for a changing of the guard. The existing Democratic power class, the Biden, Pelosi, Schumer class, their time has come. Now, that's not to say I do not think that Chuck Schumer is going to be deposed as the Democratic leader anytime soon. But do I think he's going to run for re-election in 2028? I think that's probably unlikely at this point because there is this groundswell of Democrats saying, we have given you boomers the opportunity to run this party for the last 60 years, and now it's our turn. And I think that it's very interesting that you make this point about the 21st congressional district and the special elections in Florida as well. All these districts, and they're strategically picked, the folks that get tapped for the administration because they know their seats they're not going to lose. I don't expect there to be some sort of Democratic upset in any of these special elections.
Right.
But the margin of victory for Republicans, I think, is going to be very, very important for us to look at because that will demonstrate whether or not the Democrats are making any progress at chipping away at Donald Trump's, kind of the stranglehold he has on middle America. And you're 100% right that the first thing that Democrats have to do is select candidates that reflect these districts that they're attempting to represent. And a lot of times, I know in that district in particular, in the North Country, they have hauled in, folks that have kind of nominal connections to the region. Maybe they went to elementary school there, or even maybe they graduated high school there, but then went off and lived in New York City as a hedge fund broker, or even lived in D.C. for 20 years. And then they've lost touch with the essence of those communities. And what they need is somebody who people know, who when they walk into a grocery store, they say hello to everybody and people know who they are. And they're not kind of so entrenched in that connection of Republican versus Democrat. You know this person as a human being, as an individual. Now, it's hard in a district like that because it is so massive geographically.
Right.
So it's hard for someone to be known, from, I think, doesn't it touch part of Rome?
And actually all of Rome, the way up to Saratoga and
right, and then Plattsburgh, Potsdam.
Yep.
That district is just massive, and so that is a challenge. But yes, it starts with picking candidates who reflect the district in an authentic way, not in a manufactured way. And that's how you begin the process of convincing people. Because if it's somebody that's really invested in the community, they're not just going to go to Washington and just and toe the party line. They're going to do the things that benefit their communities and their constituents the most. And that's at least where the Democratic Party has to start.
What I find interesting is when Obama was elected and had the majority in the Senate and the House, the storyline was, is this the end of the Republican Party? Do you remember that? And
back to 2004, after George W. Bush won re-election,
yes,
it's the end of the Democratic Party.
Yes,
it is very cyclical. You're 100% right.
So, but I got to tell you, I don't know that I've seen a party that has lost that no longer looks like its constituents more so than what the Democrats have done, especially in this last presidential campaign. It just didn't look like they lost middle America. They lost the voting Democrats who were looking at the party and saying, this just doesn't, they're not talking about things that mean that much to me. And that's a problem.
I think about being a young man growing up in Western New York, and my grandfather was a union carpenter who worked as a union carpenter for 30 years, pounding nails all up and down the Buffalo area. And he was a tried and true Democrat. And he was a tried and true Democrat because it was his firm belief that the Democratic Party was the party of people like him, of working men who got up every day with a lunch pail and set out in the blazing sun or in a snowstorm to fix roofs and to build houses and to build this country. And you could not convince him otherwise. And I wonder, my grandfather's been passed away now for, more than 10 years. So he really never really experienced the Donald Trump impact on the Republican Party. I don't necessarily know that he would have been a Donald Trump supporter, but I wonder what he would have thought of the shifts the Democrats made to culture war issues instead of that focus on the economic issues that drove the middle class of this country and drove rural voters and farmers and truck drivers and people like that. That's where they've lost their way, and that's where Donald Trump swept in. It's not as though the Republican Party was very good at this either. The Republican Party had left that section of America away, and Donald Trump was the one who came in and said, hey, I'm the one that can speak to you. Now, you can argue whether or not he spoke to those issues in a way that was productive, but it captured that segment of the country that largely had been dormant politically. They had not been engaged or a part of the political process. Now they're a political force, and the Democrats took them for granted for a long time, and it's going to take a long time for them to get them back.
By the way, and Megan will get the last question here. How did your grandfather handle the fact that you worked for Republicans? Whoa.
Well, he knew that I was an independent political mind.
Okay. All right.
And then I worked for the person that I've really only worked for one Republican, and that was a person I have a personal connection with, as you know, in Joe Griffo. So,
fair enough. All right. Fair enough.
I am an independent thinker, as you've known for a long time.
Well, he may be bothered. He would have been bothered with that, to be honest with you. So That's
true.
You must be more loyal to the party.
Yeah.
All right, Megan, final question.
Ryan, we're coming down to the end of the hour here, but I think what you said perfectly is that the Democrats have lost their way in the eyes of the voters. And one of their biggest complaints that people had who formally voted for Democrats is that Democrats love to spend, that they follow their passion projects now to fund this, that, X, Y, and Z. We could go into a whole preamble about that. But the big issue...
From the Stanley Theater Studios, WIBX Utica, Rome,
W295DI,
WIBX 950 and 92.3 FM, a Town Square media station.
Class dismissed. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Trump's expected to sign an executive order today directing Education Secretary Linda McMahon to break up her department.
White House Deputy Press Secretary Harrison Field says, quote, President Trump's executive order to expand educational opportunities will empower parents, states, and communities to take control and improve outcomes for all students. This is something the president campaigned on, of course, saying the department was full of, quote, radical zealots and Marxists. Under Article 2 of the Constitution, Congress will need to sign off on abolishing the Department of Education, which was established in 1979.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. At least 70 Palestinians are reported killed in Israeli airstrikes across Gaza today, where Israeli troops are back on the ground.
Ground forces have moved back into the Netzarim corridor, the roadway that splits the Gaza Strip down the middle. The IDF says that strikes this week have killed a Hamas leader in charge of security affairs. The military also claims that there's a high probability these strikes killed the Hamas head of internal security forces, the Minister of Justice, and the Minister of Internal Affairs.
Fox's Alex Hogan. An Indian citizen teaching at Georgetown University in D.C. is detained for deportation, accused of spreading Hamas propaganda and promoting anti-Semitism on social media. The Greenpeace environmental activist group is ordered to pay $660 million to the owner of the Dakota Access Pipeline over protests in 2017.
Demonstrators clashed with police over an oil pipeline under the Missouri River. Greenpeace, according to the pipeline's lawsuit, orchestrated a campaign to stop construction, providing intelligence, training, tents, tools, and lockboxes that protesters used to chain themselves to equipment, leading to some 700 arrests. Now, the company, Energy Transfer, claims Greenpeace also defamed it, causing banks to divest, costing it some $300 million in damages.
Fox's William Bludgeoness. America's listening to Fox News.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Only two things in life are certain, death and taxes. How about one more? Switch from Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile to cut your bill in half with Pure Talk. For just $25 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 5 gigs of data on America's most dependable 5G network. Making the switch, it's simple, fast, and easy. You dial pound 250, you say the keyword Pure Talk, and make the switch. You do it now, you save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, wireless, by Americans, for Americans.
There's a conviction in a pandemic aid fraud case.
A jury in Minnesota finding Amy Bach, the founder of Feeding Our Future, guilty of conspiracy, wire fraud, and bribery. Federal prosecutors say Bach ran a food fraud scheme, stealing $250 million, accusing her of exploiting chaos during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, submitting falsified paperwork as part of the federal child nutrition program. Co-defendant Salim Saeed, convicted of similar charges and money laundering. Both had maintained their innocence, defense lawyers arguing their clients were misled and not responsible for fraud. They are each one of 70 defendants charged in the case. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Day 2 of the Vancouver Auto Show. No Teslas there.
The show's executive director told Fox Business the move is to protect the safety of attendees, exhibitors, and staff. This as people in Canada have been protesting Tesla and its CEO Elon Musk, who also heads President Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Americans upset about Musk's actions are also protesting Tesla and even vandalizing Tesla dealerships in the U.S.
That's Fox's Carmen Roberts. You can watch about 12 straight hours of men's college basketball today if you want. 16 first-round tournament games starting at 12:15 Eastern.
Auburn enters the tournament as the #1 overall seed.
taking on 16-seed Alabama State in the South region. Duke, Houston, and Florida are the other number 1 seeds. On Friday, which will see 16 more games, the UConn Huskies kick off their back-to-back championship defense against Oklahoma, but they do so as an 8 seed after losing 10 games leading up to the tournament. Joe Morgan, Fox News.
The first day of spring. We're technically about 2 hours into it when the Earth's axis isn't tilted toward or away from the sun. And everyone in the world gets about 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of nighttime, give or take a few minutes. Happens again in the fall. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. WIBX 950 AM 92.3 FM news time is 7:05. It is 48 degrees under cloudy skies. Your full weather forecast is coming up next. 2 people were arrested in Rome for driving while intoxicated. Rome police said they stopped a car driven by Cody Lash in a Forestport on Sunday. An officer suspected he was under the influence. He was arrested following a sobriety test. The second traffic stop was conducted on a car driven by Jonathan Diaz of Rome, and police say he showed signs of being under the influence of drugs. He was charged for driving while impaired. Both men have since been released on appearance tickets and are due back in court at a later date. State police are also revealing the results of their latest St. Patrick's Day enforcement initiative. From March 14 through Monday, 239 people were arrested for DWI, including 20 in central New York. There were over 11,000 tickets handed out statewide for traffic violations like speeding and distracted driving. During 2024's enforcement campaign, 8,800 tickets were issued and 217 DWI arrests were made. Amid a rise in measles cases nationwide, New York State's Department of Health has launched a web portal aimed to educate residents on vaccines and other information about the disease. At this time, New York has confirmed 4 cases in the state, 3 of which are in New York City, and all are said to be unrelated to the outbreak in Texas. Governor Kathy Hochul noted measles was considered eradicated in the U.S. in the year 2000 and said in a statement, measles doesn't belong in the 21st century. The measles portal can be accessed at health.ny.gov/disease/communicable/measles. And the Trump administration is threatening to pull federal funding from the MTA. The administration apparently has concerns about public safety on the transit system and says it will pull funding if the MTA doesn't provide data on subway crime by the end of the month. The MTA gets billions from the federal government, and that money makes up part of its fiscal budget. MTA Chairman Jano Leiber says he's not concerned, saying subway crime is at its lowest level since the pandemic. Your WIBX news time is 7:07. Here is your full weather forecast.
Windy with increasing clouds to begin spring with late day showers at a high of 64. Rain may mix with snow overnight with a low of 30 and a few snow showers early tomorrow, but not much accumulation. Then clearing with a high of 43. Rain moves in Saturday with a high of 50. Clearing and cooler Sunday behind a front with a high in the upper 30s. I'm Jeff Marr at the Weather Channel on WIBX 950 AM and 92.3 FM.
48 degrees under cloudy skies. In sports, the Vikings are uninterested in signing Aaron Rodgers, but is prepared to start second-year quarterback J.J. McCarthy after he missed his rookie season with a knee injury. Rodgers preferred to join the Vikings after he got released by the Jets, but the Giants and Steelers, they might still be interested in him. Reportedly, the Texans strengthened their lines of scrimmage by signing free agent offensive tackle Cam Robinson and agreeing to a contract extension with defensive end Daniel Hunter. Robinson is signing a 1-year deal that holds a max value of $14.5 million, but Hunter is set to sign a 1-year, $35.6 million extension. That keeps him with the team through the 2026 season. He had a dozen sacks last year. The Yankees in split squad action topped the Phillies 9-7, but were shut out by the Braves 4-0. New York continues Grapefruit League action tonight with the Orioles. The Mets cruised to an 8-2 victory over the Astros. David Peterson earned the win after striking out 4 over 5 scoreless innings. Pete Alonso went deep with a 3-run blast. New York continues Grapefruit League play with the Washington Nationals tonight. The NHL is prepared to do something entirely different again for next season's All-Star break. Commissioner Gary Bettman told the media on Wednesday that the league is re-evaluating how they want to do things following the major success of the Four Nations tournament. Canada edged the U.S. 3-2 in overtime to claim the inaugural title last month. Officials say everything is on the table when the NHL's top talent gathers at the Islanders' home ice in Elmont next year, and the NCAA men's basketball tournament is officially underway. St. John's John's faces Omaha in the first round tonight in Providence. UConn begins its quest for a three-peat against Oklahoma tomorrow night in Raleigh. And don't forget, today is your final day at noontime, actually, to put in your picks for the WIBX $1 million bracket. If you have a perfect bracket, you could win $1 million, and you could still win $10,000. More details on WIBX950.com. Your WIBX news time is 7:09. I'm Megan Stone.
Are you concerned about age-related macular degeneration, or AMD? If you're over 50, then you should be. AMD impacts as many as 1 in 10 Americans over 50. Now, protecting your eyes is easier thanks to New Nordic's Blueberry Eye Supplements. New Nordic's Blueberry Eye Supplements not only protect your eyes, but help improve night vision, as well as helping to relieve eye fatigue caused by digital devices. Enjoy healthy vision with New Nordic's Blueberry Eye Supplements. Available now at Amazon.com or NewNordicUSA.com.
Steve Lennon and Company Jewelers in the Village of New Hartford. This is Bill Keeler. The first Bloom Bridal event is on now through April 30th. 30% off engagement ring settings and buy one, get one free wedding bands. In-store 12-month interest-free financing with some exclusions and an amazing custom bridal line with custom-made wedding rings and bands. You dream it up, they make it come true with GIA-certified master jewelers and gemologists in-store. Steve Lennon and Company Jewelers, 23 Genesee Street, New Hartford. Your trusted jeweler for over 30 years. Private appointments upon request.
Open registration for the Boilermaker Road Race is live, and people are sprinting to Boilermaker.com to grab their racing bibs before they're gone, and they're going fast. More than half of the 15K running bibs have already been spoken for, so time is running out to reserve your spot at the starting line and punch your ticket to the world's best post-race party with live music, drinks, food, and surprises. This year's Boilermaker is shaping up to be bigger and better than ever, so run, don't walk to Boilermaker.com to sign up for one of America's favorite races. See you at the starting line on July 13th.
First News with Keeler in the Morning on WIBX.
Robin Kaminsky is the manager at the Humane Society in Rome, and she's on the line right now. Robin, good morning. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. This story last week was really disturbing. And
heartbreaking.
It is the story that you have a puppy corral, and explain how this person dropped off the puppy. Ultimately, the puppy died when you guys was passed away by the time you guys came in the morning. Walk us through what you believe happened.
Okay, so just the way the corral is set up, it's closer to the road. And the gate was open, so if it was a dog put in there, which quite often will come in the morning, people have surrendered a dog into there, but the gate is closed, obviously. This morning the gate was open, so we all came on in. Still a lot of snow, banks, but some had melted.
Yeah.
And one of our employees went out, nice day, dogs could go out early in the morning, went to walk the corral just to make for sure appropriate toys and such were out there, and found the puppy passed away. So, hard to say, was it alive? Was it dead? Yeah. Obviously very ill because it didn't make any attempt to walk around. And the ground just looked like they had maybe dropped it over the fence because the ground was kind of patted down. So best of our guess.
What kind of dog was it?
Probably a pit bull mix. It's hard. We try very hard not to say what breeds they are because indeed you can get quite tricked by that. Right. They may look a certain breed, but looked as if it had some pit bull, maybe some Rottie, but young, probably around the 4-month age.
Yeah. Do you have you made any progress? Have police made any progress in trying to find out who dropped off the puppy?
So I can tell you the Sheriff's Department has been absolutely gold star wonderful.
Yeah.
We've built a new relationship with them, and they are our go-to people for anything that happens like this. And the one deputy that came out has been great. He covers this area. He's, building a relationship with us, which has been very helpful.
Yeah.
We had some neighbors that heard some commotion over at the shelter with a loud truck that early morning hours, but couldn't really see anything. We also have had a couple of phone calls in with, I think I may have known, but as we take a description of the dog, it hasn't been anybody that fits.
Yeah.
So
right now it's been a dead end.
yes. And often that happens with the abandoned animals. But what we try to do here is, first thing, we all support each other because we're here for the well-being of the animals. So we have everybody get-together meeting. We can maybe complain and gripe and groan and moan and be upset and angry, and then we move forward. But this is why we're here, to take everything that happens and put it into a positive light.
Yeah.
So educating the community is going to be big, top on our list. Compassion, caring needs to be taught in the schools to young children.
Right.
Not taught, but explained and encouraged. It's not a learned thing. It's an encouraged thing. Maybe they're not getting it at home, and there's such a strong link between animal abuse, domestic violence, child abuse. It's all interlinked.
Yeah.
So we're just a part of that wheel to make the world better. And that's kind of where we try to go.
And do you feel obviously when something terrible like this happens, it does give you the opportunity to inform the public, in some cases educate people who might not know. What do you do? Because we had a lot of people say that part of the problem is that when you surrender a dog, you end up having to pay money. And for people who don't have that money, they probably shouldn't have the dog in the first place, but they're trying to give up the dog. What do you, if they feel like we can't afford this, we don't have a way to turn, we don't have anywhere to go, what is your suggestion to those people? And please, it is no excuse. I'm not implying that, but what do you tell those people who feel they don't have an option?
Yep. So they can give us a call. We can try to brainstorm some solutions.
Yeah.
One really important thing we have is a pet food pantry. You get in a bind. If I could just get dog food for the next 2 weeks, I'd be okay.
Right.
So we can sometimes set people up with food. We can also encourage them and talk them through making a savings account for their dog or cat, which, $5 a week. You put it aside in a little piggy bank, and you don't touch it, and you have it there. We also very much encourage them to just get to a vet for a well check, because then you become an established client.
Right.
And it changes the whole aspect of things. If you tell us, I haven't taken him anywhere because he's never been sick, it's a red flag, because you're not going to be able to get in. But if you can get yourself established with a veterinary clinic, they'll see you.
And explain why
better.
If you can, explain why that's important. Like anything else, you need to protect the animals that you currently have, right?
Yep. Taking ownership of an animal, again, it's education that you really have to think about it before you make that commitment. And veterinary clinics can only see, the local veterinary clinics can only see their clients. So you have to get established as a client, or else you're going to end up going to one of the emergency clinics, which are very expensive.
Yeah.
And so just get yourself established with a local vet. The importance of that is huge. Just a well check. And you can talk to any veterinarian and say, I can only do this. What would be the most important thing I start with? Get your rabies vaccine done, and then pick away at the other vaccines. Most veterinarians will definitely work out a plan so you're not hit with those huge veterinary bills. Those come from lack of veterinary care.
Right.
It, kind of spirals.
Mm-hmm. I spoke with a farmer who said that they have animals dropped off all the time. I think this is more common than we really know.
Yep. So people think, I'll just take that cat, I'll drop him off at a farm because it's a farm. I personally live on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can tell you that farmers aren't necessarily looking for dropped-off animals, but it's just a misconception that people have. And again, getting out in the community, if we can set up some sort of an educational program to tell people farmers aren't looking for you to drop your dog off there.
Yeah.
Call a Humane Society. Let us talk you through. We may not be able to take in your pet, but we have lots of networks for organizations that maybe will be able to help you.
Mm-hmm. I'd said that if I guarantee if somebody were to call the radio and say, I have a dog that I can't keep any longer, we're gonna drop it off unless somebody would adopt the pet. I feel like there'd be 10 people on the line saying, I'll take that dog. I will take the dog to prevent anything bad from happening. There's a community that is really sympathetic to animals, and it's a pretty large community.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I agree. And there's some great new foster-only networks that have started up that are beyond fabulous, because a dog skipping the path of an animal shelter and going to a home and being fostered in a home is huge. And so they were brilliant to set up that network. But when we talk to people on the phone, we'll encourage that.
Yeah.
They may not be successful here at the shelter. It's a long road for some dogs or cats.
Mm-hmm.
So try a neighbor maybe will foster your cat or dog till you can find a forever home. And sometimes that buys us enough time to find a solution.
Well, Robin, you guys do a great job out there. And I'm sorry this happened, but it is a moment where, things, you get publicity and people talk about it. And that conversation, I do think, is important.
And hopefully changes some outcomes in the future.
And maybe does prevent this from happening in the future. Obviously, if somebody has any bit of knowledge where they saw something or something showed up on their Ring camera that might maybe lend something to police to try to find out who dropped this puppy off, they would reach out to the sheriff's department.
Yep, the sheriff's department, or they can call here, because I have one deputy who's reached out and has been helping us. I could contact him.
Okay.
So either way, sheriff's department or the Humane Society of Rome.
All right, Robin, thank you so much.
Yep, you have a nice day.
Thank you, Robin.
Thanks. Robin Kaminsky is with the Humane Society of Rome.
This is Anthony Constantino, CEO of Sticker Mule. I'm a proud Trump supporter, running for Congress for the seat being vacated by Elise Stefanik. I built a successful internet company with nearly 1,000 people in upstate New York. However, much of upstate New York suffers from lack of access to high-speed internet that's necessary to build great companies and enable high-paying remote jobs. In fact, much of our district lacks access to strong, dependable cell phone service too. Of course, we must have both for public safety and to grow the economy. When elected to Congress, I will work quickly with President Trump to fix this problem. With high-speed internet, dependable cell service, and by renewing President Trump's tax cuts, both for businesses and individuals, we will create jobs and return economic prosperity to upstate New York. Follow me, Anthony Constantino, on Facebook today to learn more about my plans to make New York great again. I'm Anthony Constantino, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Constantino for Congress.
First News with Keeler in the Morning on WIBX.
All right, on the line right now is Chris Wilbrat, and Chris is the co-founder of Echelon Financial. And right now, the Better Business Bureau is warning of ghost preparers. Chris, good morning. Thanks for coming on. What do we know about this? I'm going to try it with you like this, see if that works. Hi, Chris. Good morning.
I'm here.
Gotcha.
Good morning.
So the Better Business Bureau warning of ghost preparers, people who aren't really tax professionals, but they would love your information.
Absolutely. This can show up in two different ways. One is online services that pop up for free tax preparation, or even storefront tax preparers that will just pop up for a quick season. They'll get all your information and disappear.
Yeah. Which is why you want to go with someone who has a reputation, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. So if you're going to use an online service, use one of the big ones like TurboTax, or if you're going to use somebody locally, I would go to either the Better Business Bureau or start asking your friends and family.
Yeah.
Who do you
use?
How long? Exactly. It's a really important event.
There are a lot of different opportunities this year and there are a lot of promotions out there. In some cases, the preparers will say, hey, we'll give you your refund in advance. You're going to pay for that though, right?
Oh, absolutely. You're essentially paying interest on it. So they're advancing your refund, they're making their interest, and then whenever they get paid, then the interest stops accruing.
And are you a tax preparer yourself?
No, we have our CPAs that in-house.
And that's the other thing. Talk about the difference between a tax preparer and a certified public accountant.
Sure. So a tax preparer could be an enrolled agent. They could work for one of the big, like an H&R Block, where they're trained on how to use the software. If you have a very simple tax return, like just 1040 with a W-2, mortgage interest, et cetera, they could do a good job for you. CPAs, on the other hand, they've gone through a lot of training. They've taken their CPA exam, and they have to keep up with lots of continuing education. So they can do the simpler returns, but they're also trained to handle more complex returns, like business returns, or if you have a lot of, if your personal return has a lot of complexities, like a lot of rental properties or something like that. They might be better tuned to that because they might be able to identify some tax strategies to save you some money and maybe cover their fee.
Here's the other part of that. CPA can represent you if you're audited by the IRS. Your tax preparer, I don't think can.
No, and the thing about the advantage to having a CPA is that they prepare your return. So if there's something on there that was an error that the IRS is looking at as potential fraud, you have that line of defense where, like, well, the CPA prepared it for me. I didn't do it. If you prepare it yourself, then they could potentially come at you with a claim of tax fraud.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Interesting stuff. Just beware. You're really today, Chris. Every move we make, and I feel really bad for people who are not technically aware, because between text messages coming in, emails, phone calls, these scammers are getting so good, and in some cases using AI, so their voices are different. It's harder than ever to avoid being scammed.
They are becoming more adept at scamming. But there's one thing you can remember that will protect you. The IRS will never call you, they will never text you, and they will never send you an email. The only way they communicate with you is by mail. So if you receive any type of voicemail or text message stating that you owe taxes or the IRS is after you, just know automatically that is fraudulent.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right, Chris, thank you. We appreciate it. From Echelon Financial, thanks so much.
Have a great day. Thank you.
All right, you do the same.
First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX.
Hi, Scott. Can you hear me, or am I talking?
You don't
to
have them
myself?
clicked in, Bill.
Oh, I don't. Oh, I thought I heard some.
There you go.
Yeah.
I heard the bell. It sounded like the bell for a play. I can tell coming out third round.
I took so many pills this morning.
Uh-oh.
It is a wonder I'm not really slurring my words.
Does RFK know about this or what?
I don't know. Well, I already have to take a bunch anyway. But then I'm adding, the cough stuff and the whatever.
Yeah, Sudafed and all that stuff.
Trying to.
Oh, you got a COVID?
No.
What do you got?
I believe it's leprosy. Where I don't know what I have today. But it's not. I can say it's not COVID. That's I guess a positive. It's not the flu. It's just your common
normal
bad cold, which is a lot of fun.
Those respiratory bugs.
It's your normal 70-degree drop to 30-degree.
You're probably right.
Cold.
How quickly did this happen? I mean, Ray
my God.
Stasiak, meteorologist Ray Stasiak, talking about it earlier this morning. It was. I mean, just think about it. Friday was really a nice day here. The previous Friday, we were dealing with whiteouts and snow. You couldn't see your hand in front of you. And just like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Sheriff Mashel said. He was standing next to one of his buddies and he couldn't see them.
Could not see. Yeah.
We lost power in Kirkville in the Bridgeport area for about 4 hours last night. And the funny part, it wasn't the first band that did it. That's when the wind was blowing and howling. And I'm going, here we go. And I said, great. We got over. All of a sudden, the second band came and it was lighter. And all of a sudden, all the lights went out. Of course, during Selection Sunday, it couldn't happen to CS to the dress. They had to be during Selection Sunday.
Right.
It just feels like it was targeted, wasn't it?
It was targeted. It was, in fact, you lost 10 minutes because they broke in with the tornado warnings about 6:10.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah.
And I'm waiting for the Gonzaga, and it just came back before they announced where Gonzaga was playing.
It was like one right after another. They kept. You couldn't even get through. It would.
Exactly.
They'd come back, and another one would hit. That was
exactly.
Fun. Yeah.
But I wanted to call and publicly wish producer Dave a happy birthday.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
He is 50.
I understand.
50.
Yep, big 5-0. Yeah, I understand that Jeff's thinking about popping out the cake face shaped like a FedEx truck. Is that true or not? Or?
Okay, I know. You never know. You never know.
And the choice is to sing Happy Birthday. It's up to Dave if he wants karaoke Andrew or a replay of Marilyn Monroe singing to the Happy Birthday to the President Kennedy. You go AI and just put Davey instead of the President Kennedy there. So that's your choice.
Okay.
I've been complaining to him for the last week about being 50, haven't I?
Well,
yeah.
It was like he wanted everybody to know what age he was turning.
I'd rather be 50 than 51 or 49. So 50, make it last, and it sounds special. They even have a card that says 50.
Scott, how old are you? You got to be over.
Yeah, I'm in the back nine, and we're not talking about your golf game.
Okay,
I'm basically in the late 60s. And,
you're late 60s. Well, you don't look late 60s. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
right.
I appreciate that, but it's just it's funny. And we were just talking, my girlfriend and I were talking about how we were trying to figure out where we were last week, because things are flying, and it seems to be flying at the end. But when you're 18 and want to be 21, everything seems to be slow, because once you get 21, you get all the, everything, all the perks and the rights and stuff like that. But that seems like those 3 years are slower than the last 10 years of your life.
How did you? What are your thoughts on the SEC?
Oh, geez, it's. I'm calling. Davey's got me set for Wednesday. Look at the actual games.
All right, don't give up anything.
My personal stuff is no league. I don't care how good you are, because once you get in the league, you're going to play each other. So have all these quad wins, because this is the old days where the ACC had a good Virginia, Duke, and North Carolina, and maybe throw in a Notre Dame, because if you play them in conference, you get credit for losing. And it seems to me, all these teams, they have losing records in the Southeast Conference dinner, got credit for losing to quad ones. And I'll be honest with you, I was shocked to see North Carolina from the ACC. And,
that's what Davey said.
They have one win all year against 12 teams from quad ones. And I really have thought Indiana might sneak in at the end, and maybe Ohio State. Yeah. And I find it ironic, and don't call me a conspiracy theory, but nobody watches usually the playing games unless you have a little wager on them.
Right.
It's amazing Carolina's playing on Tuesday. It might be the highest rated True TV show probably ever in True history outside O.J. Simpson.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to let you save your intellect for for Wednesday.
Like, we had a good conference thing, playing the second half overs, because a lot of following, and so we'll hopefully we continue in the tournament stuff.
I gotta tell you, we have on our website. I know you're not a big web guy, but on our website, stay far away from me, because. Yeah, stay far away. On our website, Tony's Pizzeria, home of the amazing Italian buffet, 11 a.m. till 8 p.m., right? Wow. They're sponsoring our $1 million perfect bracket contest, but an imperfect bracket, you're still in the running for $10,000. So you'd be crazy not to just sign up for this thing.
Yeah, it's $1 million? $1
million for a perfect. I mean,
yes.
Robert's done about the last 20 years at $100 million. He hasn't paid out yet. So.
He hasn't paid out yet, but an imperfect bracket could pay you $10,000. So I like that.
Well, you start at 16, you work your way up to 15 and 12, I guess.
There you go. All right, good stuff. Thank you.
Once again, happy birthday, Producer Dave.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks a lot. It means a lot coming from you, buddy.
Now through March 31st. Get up to $160 back on a Bridgestone prepaid MasterCard when you use your Tallman's card from CFNA. Whether you're in Utica, Yorkville, Rome, or Herkimer, their team of professionals is ready to serve you. Schedule your appointment today online at TallmansTire.com. Tallman's Tire and Auto Repair. Get the best tires for your vehicle at unbeatable prices guaranteed. Subject to credit approval, restrictions apply. See dealer or BridgestoneRewards.com for details.
It all began in 1985 with a single goal, a commitment to brighten our community. And with your kindness, that light grew brighter. Because for 40 years, you've helped Food Bank of Central New York deliver healthy food and hope. But that need continues to grow. So this year, please consider giving a little extra and make sure the light we shine together never goes out.
Ferris commercial mowers set the bar with racing-inspired patented full suspension and integrated cutting decks so you can go faster, cut better, and not get beat up. Ferris Experience Suspension. Take advantage of the best financing and prices of the year. Visit us at whitesfarmsupply.com.
We're the power in power equipment. White's Farm Supply.
At Steve Ponte Chevy in Herkimer, we'd like to thank our first responders, active military, and veterans,
as well as healthcare employees and education employees.
Not only is Chevrolet offering $500 in savings towards the purchase of your new Chevy, but Steve Ponte Chevy is going to match that with an additional $500 for a total of $1,000 in savings as our thank you to you.
So together, let's drive and see why our customers always say it's so easy to do business with Steve Ponte Chevy on Route 28 in Herkimer.
Customer must qualify for educator, military, veterans, first responder, and healthcare discount. Must take delivery by March 31st, 2025. See salesperson for details.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
First News with Keeler in the Morning on WIBX.
This is Keeler in the Morning. WIBX 950 and 92.3 FM.
All right, we told you we're going to be talking a little bit about Herkimer. And Rich is on the line right now. Rich, good morning. Thank you. Rich goes as Mr. Nice Guy online on YouTube, has his own YouTube channel. Oftentimes, we'll go around taping. He's one of those guys on YouTube that will tape people. If you're on public property, you can videotape someone. If you're doing it from public property, and he's been to many places where people say you can't tape here, and really he has the right to do it. Rich, good morning. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, good morning, Bill. How are you today?
Good. And one of those areas where you got into an altercation was when you were taping the village town. Was it the town crew or the village crew?
It was the water? Was it the water supervisor there? That was the village.
Yeah, that was the village. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and they, at one point, you get into situations where it can become physical, but it is your constitutional right, and you demonstrate that. You're also an animal control person, right?
Oh, yes. I used to do dogs and cats for the villages and the different townships. So I've worked for a lot of these municipalities that I actually go out to now and educate their officers and their town folk.
Okay, so right now, and I'm not sure this has really hit the news, although you have covered it. You have on your YouTube channel.
Bill. I'm not afraid to cover the stuff that the news won't cover. Well, you know how that goes, Bill.
I do. So explain what is going on right now in Herkimer.
So we have a situation where back in June, some scrap was taken back to a local scrap dealer, and the town supervisor allegedly used his trucks and allegedly had the $1,200
$1,200 in scraps.
Put in his name, using 2 town employees while they were on the books.
To unload it?
No, to actually take it back, get the check, and return the check back to the town. So this is what should have happened. What should have happened was town trucks were used, town employees were used, and then the check gets made back out to the town so it can
Correct.
So it can be put in a general fund.
Now
that didn't happen here.
Now, has this happened more than once?
So here's the deal. This person has been the town supervisor or the town highway superintendent for 2 years. It would be crazy to think that in 2 years working for a township that you would not bring back scrap. So I have gone and requested with FOIL requests through the town. I would like to see the receipts that were actually made out to the town in this last 2 years to say that, yes, the scrap was taken back and it was put into the general fund. So far, they've not been able to provide me with that.
Now, you have confirmed there is an investigation by state police.
I have, yes.
And how did you find out that the check was made out directly to the supervisor as a civilian, as just a regular person?
It was made out to the supervisor. Allegedly, it's made out to the supervisor's business.
Okay. How did you learn this?
How did I find out? I heard it from an employee who is no longer working there and currently working for another municipality. He actually went to the police and explained to the police all that was going on. And these folks didn't think that it was being taken seriously by the state troopers. So they got me involved so I could put a little bit of light on it here and hopefully make it so, if it's alleged what happened here, if this is actually what happened and it's confirmed, then this man has no business working for the town of Herkimer.
So here's what we have learned is that it is there is an investigation, but it is not the town supervisor. That the pieces that you may be putting together have some truth, but it is not the person that you think it is.
And like I said, everything is alleged, and
it is.
I will tell you that while these other two employees that took this scrap back are working for this town's highway superintendent, they are being pressured also, I'm sure.
Well, all I'm saying is
from the whistleblower.
Okay, but what I'm saying though is you have no evidence that you don't have any physical evidence. You don't have any physical evidence that a check was made out, and what I don't want to do is cast a negative shadow on the town supervisor when he may be completely innocent in this situation.
Absolutely.
Right. And I understand the word alleged. I do understand the word alleged. I understand that. But at the same time, you don't want to bring someone into it. It's just not cool. But I've been told there is an investigation, but that you may have the wrong person.
Well, what I've also been told is the initial whistleblower is being considered as a scapegoat here. And there's other people involved in this too that may be pressured to make it look like it's them.
Okay, well, everybody's going to have a story, but
absolutely.
I think until we know, and this development that I know you've dug in on this and you've been making these accusations. However, I just want to make sure we're not accusing the wrong person here.
I don't believe we are.
Well, my sources are telling me that we are. So I just want to give you that. And because you could be, it's possible. You don't have any physical evidence pointing the finger at this person at this point.
I have a couple of receipts, yeah.
That are in his name?
No, not his name.
That's my point.
Business name.
I understand that, but I'm just saying you don't have anything that points directly to him. So I would be careful. However, we do know something's going on. We do know that if there's scrap metal that has been collected by the town or by a village, and it's then taken back. That money needs to go to the town or the village, to the municipality. It should never go through another company or through another person. And I believe that's what's being currently investigated. So,
yeah, I agree.
We reached out to the mayor, and we hope to talk to the mayor about the issue and find out although this is the town, right?
Yes, this is the town.
Yeah.
You'd be reaching out to Dominic Frank, the supervisor.
Yep. That's who we will be talking to later today. So let's see what comes out of all of this. Anything?
So when you talk to Dominic, ask him how seriously he's taking this, and if it is the person that I'm saying that it is that person going to be released if it's not a felony? I've heard that if it's not a felony, we're not getting rid of this guy.
Okay. Well, and I would ask you, if it isn't the person that you're saying it is, how do you handle that?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious with the check that I'm looking at here. Okay.
All right. Let's see where it all goes. I find you're doing, your independent investigation. There's a lot of these that are online today, but sometimes I fear that things slip through the cracks, and we make assumptions that sometimes aren't necessarily fair. And I don't want to be dragging somebody through the mud that shouldn't be dragged through the mud.
Oh, no, I haven't mentioned any names on here, Bill.
Well, you don't need to mention a name. I mean, we mentioned the position. That's all you need to really imply. But I would just be careful. Let us dig a little further, and we will let you know what we find out.
All right, I appreciate you.
All right, thanks so much. That is Rich. Mm-hmm. You can search for his. I mean, you're a journalism major. Until you have any, you may have a hunch, but a hunch just is not enough.
No, it's trust and verify. That has been the mantra that has kept me going all these years, because yes, you could trust your gut, but you have to verify your gut.
It's hard to know what to do when you lose a loved one. You need someone you can trust to help you navigate all the options. Mohawk Valley Monuments has been providing comfort and delivering quality memorials in our community for over 95 years. Mohawk Valley Monuments has experience with all the local cemeteries, from simple grave markings to intricate family mausoleums. For personalized service, call us today at 315-724-7629 or visit us at mohawkvalleymonuments.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED, because millions of men experience it. But not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can access a full range of treatment options for ED through a 100% online process. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to Hims.com/joy. HIMS.com/JOY.
First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX.
Speaking of doctors, I have a lot of questions about all of this. Dr. Ken Hall, good morning. He was the, of course, former, now retired MVH Chief Physician Executive. Doc, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing this morning?
Good. I got to tell you, it's that osteopathic approach, right? Where you allow your body to help repair your body. And I have to say that Revive, it definitely, all I can tell you is it relieved my pain.
Yeah, it has been shown in a number of studies to actually be very effective in the decreasing pain from mostly from musculoskeletal injuries, which is why the sports folks are really big into it and stuff. And yeah, it basically, for lack of a better term, it agitates the tissues, which stimulates the body's healing, internal or native healing mechanisms. Right. So, it has been shown to be good. Most of the studies that have been done have been both small and relatively short-lived. So we don't know how long the effect is. But certainly from a short-term standpoint, definitely has a real promise.
Do you know you would know this, but it is the same technology they use when they break up like kidney stones. It's used at a different level. I guess you turn it up. I don't know. But that it's the real deal. It's really quite impressive. All right, I want to switch gears, and because cancer does affect everybody, it seems. There's not a family that I know of that isn't in some way affected. And Megan had a story today. What was the story that you had? Again, very promising when it comes to treatment of cancer.
Yes, it's a new treatment to deal with an intestinal cancer, for stage 4 abdominal cancer. So it's called hyperthermic intraperitoneal chemotherapy. Try saying that three times fast, but it's basically involves removing the tumors, heating chemotherapy drugs, and administering them directly into the abdominal cavity through a catheter for a few hours. And it says it reduces therapy time and side effects, and it's usually covered by medical insurance.
Yep. So that's basically getting the chemotherapy drug or the anti-cancer drug directly to the tumor, as opposed to putting it into the bloodstream and having it flow through. So there are certain chemotherapy drugs that are more efficacious for that type of a way of putting it in. And obviously, because we're talking about intestinal cancer and you're putting it into the abdominal cavity, that makes sense. You wouldn't do that for if it was lung cancer or brain cancer or something like that. So, again, like I've said before, we talk about cancer as if it's a single medical entity, but the reality is it's 200 plus different diseases. And so each one is going to have its own best way of being treated. And so this looks like it has some real promise in terms of decreasing side effects and increasing the effectiveness of treating intestinal cancer. But we'll see. Right now, it's still in its early stages. We don't know what the long-term benefits are. Is this really going to show, good benefits in terms of long-term extending life and things like that?
Then there's the study. So the previous cancer that I had was colon cancer, and it was caught early enough where I didn't have to go through chemo and I didn't have to go through radiation. They just did an operation and took out 11 inches of the colon. This study at Sloan Kettering in New York is, Doc, I don't know if did I see it right? And because I don't want to report the wrong thing, but this is for people with tumors with colon cancer, and they not only reduce the size of the tumor, but eliminate the tumors using immunotherapy. And the study is small at this point, about 65 people, and it is a 100% success rate at this point. Or did I read this wrong?
No, you read it exactly right. So this is where a lot of energy and research and resources have been devoted in cancer therapy, which is immune therapy, which is basically finding a piece of the cancer cell that does not exist in the normal cells for that. So in this particular instance, we're talking about rectal cancer, which is a type of colon cancer, and what they're doing is they found pieces or protein entities within the cancer cells that do not exist in the normal cells of that tissue, and then they have developed antibodies against those particular proteins within those cells, and then when they inject them in, then the antibodies attach, and then the body starts to attack those cancer cells, leaving the normal cells alone. And this particular study, again, it is small. It's only about, like you said, about 60 to 70 people, but it has shown, believe it or not, a 100% effective rate for it.
Yeah.
Now, it is a small subset of even people that have rectal cancer, because you have to have this particular protein that the antibody can fight against. So it is, it isn't for everybody who has rectal cancer, but it is promising. And this is the groundbreaking cancer therapy that we all really want to be looking for. It gets you away from having to go through surgery and chemotherapy and radiation therapy and all those things, and doesn't give you the side effects of the chemotherapy. You know, the GI issues with the vomiting and the hair loss and all that stuff. So it is. We can really hope that this will be another step along that path.
The woman that I saw they were interviewing had stage 4 rectal cancer. The options for her were radiation and chemotherapy and an operation. She would have had everything basically removed. She would have had to wear a colostomy bag for the rest of her life, and she was younger and would no longer be able to have children. Wow. And this is stage 4. This therapy eliminated her tumor. She had no operation, no chemo, no radiation. I mean, Doc, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah, this is the kind of almost feels like a miracle cure.
Yeah.
But it is scientifically based, and it is, I believe, now this is my opinion, but I believe that this is going to be the future for cancer treatment is getting this kind of targeted treatment that is highly effective.
And then there are times that I feel guilty based on the leukemia that I have, because I know so many other people who are going through a difficult time, whether it be chemo and an operation and radiation. And here I am. I'm lucky enough to have this pill that I take, and I complain about the side effects, but I should be doing no complaining because I can still work. I can still live a normal life. And these 2 pills that I take once a day eliminate the cancer. It doesn't eliminate it, but it basically regulates the cancer to the point where you couldn't even detect it in a blood test, as long as I can take this medicine twice a day, which prior to 2000, the year 2000, people died from the leukemia that I have. I mean, I begin to feel guilty when I see someone like Ann in Rome telling me she starts her chemo tomorrow. I mean, I've been pretty darn lucky. In both cases, I've been very lucky.
Yeah, so it is. So this goes to what you are really a significant proponent and a driver of, which is early detection. And making sure that people get tested for whether it's colon cancer or prostate cancer or cervical cancer in women. Early detection and early treatment, whatever that is. And then that's part of it. The other part is, continuing to advance, different therapies that are more effective, but have less side effects and less problems. So that, we really need to continue to kind of beat that drum of we need to find it early, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to have the treatments be safe, so that people aren't afraid of them. I mean, right now people think about cancer and they say, "Oh my gosh, I've got to tolerate all these different side effects and stuff." We need to be able to say, you need to find out early, because when you do, we can treat you in a way that is not going to be as bothersome, similar to what you just said.
Pretty incredible. You had talked about this during when they were working the vaccine and with artificial intelligence. All of these things that are beginning to come out of this are positive in the research that was done during COVID, and I'm assuming before as well.
Yeah. So we think about we tend to compartmentalize things and say, oh, this is going to fix this problem. But the reality is that we in the science area, look at that and say, gee, maybe that would work here too, and maybe that would work here too, or maybe it's an offshoot. And that's really benefited, what we're doing for whether it's cancer treatment, whether it's infectious disease treatment, whether it's heart treatment. All of these things are really starting to move. Now, they aren't moving in leaps and bounds, but they are definitely moving.
Yeah. Okay, Doc, not a fun topic, cancer, but really the optimism that's coming out of the research right now is just pretty astounding.
Absolutely true. Yeah. Absolutely true.
All right, you have a wonderful day, Dr. Kent Hall. We appreciate your insight. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Please be safe.
On today's episode of America's Least Wanted, the home invaders most likely to threaten your family are not human. Cockroaches can spread salmonella and trigger asthma attacks. Termites destroy billions of dollars in property each year. And stinging insects send 500,000 people to emergency rooms. Learn how to protect your family. Arm yourself with the facts.
From the Stanley Theater Studios, WIBX Utica, Rome. W295EI. WIBX 950 and 92.3 FM. A Town Square media station.
Break it up. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Trump's expected to sign an executive order today directing Education Secretary Linda McMahon to start the process of dismantling her department and turn its responsibilities over to the states and other federal agencies.
President Trump has criticized the department as wasteful and pushed to expand educational freedom. His administration began laying off hundreds at the agency last week, but only congressional lawmakers can get rid of the education department, which Congress created in 1979, a topic McMahon acknowledged during her confirmation hearings. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Ukraine's President Zelensky, in a phone call with President Trump, agrees to a limited ceasefire with Russia as far as attacks on energy infrastructure. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt.
Technical teams will meet in Saudi Arabia in the coming days to discuss broadening the ceasefire to the Black Sea on the way to a full ceasefire. They agreed this could be the first step toward the full end of the war and ensuring security.
President Trump, during that call, suggested the idea of the United States taking ownership of Ukraine's power plants to ensure their security. 2 months into his second term, there's a new Fox News poll on President Trump's job performance.
President Trump gets high marks from 49% of voters. Republicans approve and Democrats disapprove of the president by the same percentage, 92% to 8%. Independent voters disapprove of the president, 61 to 38%.
Fox's Gernal Scott. The last person known to have been seen with a missing University of Pittsburgh student from Virginia, Joshua Reeby, has left the Dominican Republic with a new passport after 2 weeks detained in his hotel. Reeby told police that he'd pulled her down to safety from rough surf, asked if she was okay, then passed out on the beach. Her body hasn't been found. Her parents say they believe she drowned, and Reeby's not responsible. A judge yesterday ruled that he was free to leave and that police had improperly been keeping him under surveillance. America's listening to Fox News.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Only two things in life are certain, death and taxes. How about one more? Switch from Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile to cut your bill in half with Pure Talk. For just $25 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, 5 gigs of data on America's most dependable 5G network. Making the switch, it's simple, fast, and easy. You dial pound 250, you say the keyword Pure Talk, and make the switch. You do it now, you save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, wireless, by Americans, for Americans.
There's a manhunt for 2 men from Venezuela who escaped from an immigration and customs enforcement detention facility in Aurora, Colorado during a power outage.
Local authorities notified immediately and declined to assist in the search.
ICE also notified state and federal law enforcement partners. ICE and other authorities are looking for 24-year-old Guilherme Vito Romero, entered the U.S. back in 2023 and was ordered by a judge to be removed and sent to Venezuela in February. 32-year-old Joel Jose Gonzalez entered the U.S. back in 2013 and actually had pending immigration proceedings. The Aurora Police Department, they say that as a municipal law enforcement agency, we do not enforce federal immigration law and cannot participate in large-scale searches or follow-ups.
Fox 31 Denver's Greg Nieto. A former ride maintenance technician at Icon Park in Orlando, Florida, claims safety issues were ignored before a teenager fell to his death in 2022.
14-year-old Tyree Sampson died when a seat on the Orlando Freefall failed to secure him, causing him to fall more than 100 feet. Austin Campbell Alexander claims safety issues he raised in the weeks before the tragedy went ignored, and that he was fired for refusing to fraudulently sign forms saying he'd performed required safety checks. The owner claims he was fired for not properly adjusting the ride, resulting in the accident. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
A Republican who lost a race for a seat in New Mexico state legislature by nearly 50 points is convicted of charges related to drive-by shootings at the homes of Democrats he claimed rigged the 2022 election. No one was hurt. 3 bullets did pass through a state senator's 10-year-old daughter's bedroom. Prosecutors say Solomon Pena pulled the trigger in one of the 4 shootings. His son and another co-defendant pleaded guilty last year. Stock futures are lower ahead of the opening bell on Wall Street after a rally yesterday. I'm Chris Foster. This is Fox News.
Good morning. WIBX 950 AM 92.3 FM news time is 8:05. It is 49 degrees under cloudy skies. I'm Megan Stone. Your full weather forecast is coming up next. Rome officials are demanding answers after a severely malnourished and badly injured dog was found roaming in the city. The dog, a pit bull mix that was given the name of Ginger, is estimated to be at least 20 pounds underweight. She was also covered in serious injuries. Ginger is now receiving care, but authorities are asking anyone with information about where Ginger came from and who allowed her to get into such terrible shape to come forward by calling the Animal Control Office at 315-337-6260. You could see the photos of Ginger on WIBX950.com. The woman who was dragged by a train in Rome has been identified as 49-year-old Tanya Larson. The Oneida County Sheriff's Office said the incident happened on the 10th when Larson was walking alongside the CXX railway tracks when a passing Amtrak train snagged her bag and she was dragged until her bag ripped and freed her. Authorities say they located Larson without incident and arrested her because it is a criminal offense to be on railroad property. She was charged with criminal trespass in the 3rd degree and released on an appearance ticket returnable to Rome City Court at a later date. Nurses at Oneida Health Hospital have wrapped up what they're calling an informal picket. It was held yesterday outside the hospital as the nurses who have been without a contract since February 28th worked to strike a new deal. They claim the hospital brought in $12 million more in revenue last year than it did in 2023, but that leaders aren't doing enough to retain experienced staff. The hospital says it believes a fair contract offer has been presented that honors nurses and provides essential care. And a California pet food maker has recalled its raw chicken products after it was linked to bird flu infections in 2 cats and a suspected in a 3rd in New York City. Savage Pet recalled 1 lot of large and small chicken boxes because they may be contaminated with the bird flu virus. The boxes were sold in New York, and state officials urge pet owners to avoid the company and, until the bird flu crisis is over, to avoid feeding your pets raw food entirely. WIBX News Time is 8:07. Here is your Weather Center forecast.
Windy with increasing clouds to begin spring with late day showers at a high of 64. Rain may mix with snow overnight with a low of 30 and a few snow showers early tomorrow, but not much accumulation. Then clearing with a high of 43. Rain moves in Saturday with a high of 50. Clearing and cooler Sunday behind the front with a high in the upper 30s. I'm Jeff Marr at the Weather Channel on WIBX 950 AM and 92.3 FM.
49 degrees right now under cloudy skies. Here's sports. The Vikings, they are uninterested in signing Aaron Rodgers, but they're prepared to start second-year quarterback J.J. McCarthy instead. He missed his rookie season with a knee injury. Rodgers preferred to join the Vikings after he got released by the Jets, but the Giants and Steelers are floating the possibility, reportedly. The Texans strengthened their lines of scrimmage by signing free agent offensive tackle Cam Robinson and agreeing to a contract extension with defensive end Daniel Hunter. Robinson is signing a one-year deal that holds a max value of $14.5 million. Hunter is set to sign a one-year deal, $35.6 million extension that keeps him with the team through the 2026 season. The Yankees in split squad action topped the Phillies 9-7, but they were shut out by the Braves 4-0. They continue Grapefruit League action against the Baltimore Orioles tonight. The Mets cruised to an 8-2 victory over the Astros. David Peterson earned the win after striking out 4 over 5 scoreless innings. Pete Alonso went deep with a 3-run blast. New York continues Grapefruit League play with the Nationals tonight. The NHL is prepared to do something entirely different again for next season's All-Star break. Commissioner Gary Bettman told the media yesterday that the league is reevaluating how it wants to do things following the major success of the Four Nations tournament. Canada edged the United States 3-2 in overtime to claim the title last month. Officials say everything is on the table when the NHL's top talent gathers at the Islanders' home in Elmont next year. And the NCAA men's basketball tournament is underway. St. John's faces Omaha in the first round tonight in Providence. UConn begins its quest for a three-peat against Oklahoma tomorrow night in Raleigh. Don't forget, you have until noontime today to get in your bracket picks for WIBX and Town Square Media. You head on over to WIBX950.com, click on the perfect $1 million bracket, because if you pick all games correctly, you will win $1 million. And even if your bracket isn't perfect, if you get enough wins right, you can get $10,000. Who doesn't love free money? Again, all that information is on WIBX950.com. Your news time is 8:09. I'm Megan Stone.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
You work hard for a living here in the Mohawk Valley. You make a difference. You leave your mark. You deserve a financial advisor who works hard for you.
Local, prudent, and trustworthy. Van Meter & Van Meter are your full-service financial professionals. I'm Chris Van Meter, and I've spent my life helping people with financial planning, investing for the future, managing their wealth, planning their taxes, thinking about their legacy.
And I'm Dave Van Meter. Our team offers you the deep bench of financial professionals you deserve. We have the education, the experience, and the tools to make a difference for your future. Visit us at VanMeterLLC.com.
We're Van Meter & Van Meter. Call us at 315-823-9200 or visit us in Little Falls, Schuyler, or Palatine Bridge.
Securities and advisory services offered through Cattery Grant & Company Incorporated, a registered investment advisor and member FINRA SIPC. Van Meter & Van Meter LLC and Cattery Grant & Company Incorporated are separate entities.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. It's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is the place for skilled skydiving instructors, accomplished airbrush artists, and proficient pediatricians. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter to hire, you're missing out. ZipRecruiter is the place that's so confident it can make your hiring easier that it lets you try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. So if you want the right candidates for all your roles, ZipRecruiter is the place to go. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Hey, Central New York, this is Will Kane of The Will Kane Show, and you can now hear my show every weekday at WIBX. I do things a little differently when I'm behind the microphone because I turn it over to the listeners to learn and really dig into the issues that impact everyday Americans. The Will Kane Show lets you keep ahead of the headlines and understand what's really going on in the world with in-depth discussions from leading experts and the brightest minds. From politics to sports, nothing is off topic. Listen to The Will Kane Show weekdays at 6, only on WIBX 950 AM and 92.3 FM.
First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX.
I'm going to go directly with Katie Aiello, who is in studio right now. Katie, good morning. And you're all, now you've sent me some stuff. Tell me what you sent me. I haven't had a chance to go over it.
For the proposal?
Yes. Yes.
So, yesterday we wrote a letter to Mayor Galimi saying, here are all the amendments.
How many are there? You said there's like 20?
There's probably about... it's confusing because when we do the salary freezes, it's going to be individual ones, so it'll looks like 60, but the whole idea is about a little under 40.
Yeah, all right.
And it's the Republicans, the Democrats, we all have different ones, and said, our point is, here are all the options, and let us know what the path to 2% looks like. We're hoping he can reply by Friday, because the big thing here is, there is 4
You don't plan to vote on anything today's meeting?
No, if anything, today we're just going to introduce these into committee so we can talk about them later.
Okay.
But
what is your deadline?
March 20th.
Okay.
So our next council meeting, the one already scheduled, is March 19th.
Okay.
So, and so this just highlights all of that, and it's it's broken down into the 3 categories: the added revenue, reducing expenses, and the reallocating other city funds.
How much added revenue do you feel that you're projecting added revenue?
I went super modest with that, and with the sales tax, I'm asking, I know right now they have a 0% growth. I'm asking just go for 1%, which would be $200,000. Historically, I don't expect them to take me up on my revenue requests, but thankfully there's 3.9 million other here to go with.
Anyone lose their job out of this?
Nope, no jobs loss. And my big thing is, so with this CHIPS money, that's what we use for paving. Every year we get the 2.5 million. We would put it with the 2.5 million for bonding to pave the roads to meet that 5 million requirement. Now, last year we did the 14% tax raise. And then after that budget passed, we heard from the state we're getting the extra 1.1 million in CHIPS, the extra 1.9 million in the state aid. So this came to about $3 million extra dollars, which is also why I'm really concerned. We were told the budget was balanced last year. Now we got a $3 million from the state. Now he wants another $3 million more from taxpayers. So, but with that, I'm asking, when you look at this budget, it's, when we reallocate the city funds options, I'm saying don't pave another extra 1.1 million in streets. I'm saying use those expenses in the budget. So while this looks like we have to come down, I think it's about 2.7 million in cuts. Technically, if he just reallocates those city funds, we could, that's 2 million off the taxpayers, but we still get to keep that because those are being covered by CHIPS now or CDBG.
So one of the areas that you're talking about is a salary freeze. So you want to do that for what, 6 months? 6 months,
and they would everybody can get their raise come October 1st. But if these are hard times, unfortunately, I think that's going to hit everybody. And, my big thing with this budget is...
How much does that save?
This one was, first line on here, it's about $80,000. So it's small, but it adds up across the board. And that's not counting...
So it sounds more symbolic than anything else.
I think it's symbolic, but it's also just the reality of it. And again, these are cuts he could do, and that's not counting the elected official salary raises. Mm-hmm. Those are also cut from this. So my big thing is, he proposed a budget that his own party and people don't even support. Now, one person has come out and said, yes, I can stand behind this. And, the time to get our support was also while he was working on the budget. It shouldn't be a surprise he doesn't have 5 votes. So now, the goal is...
Isn't he really kind of waiting, though, for you guys? I mean, the first step would be to override the tax cap. Mm-hmm. And he did have Republican votes for that,
right? But not 6.
And you're now waiting for these amendments. Mm-hmm. In order, how do you bring it down? And that was one of the criticisms that Republicans had, is that you decided not to override the tax cap, but you didn't back up your reasoning.
Right. Yeah, we were using it as leverage for sure. I'll be transparent on that. That was the point the whole time.
Okay.
And because last year we did it the other way and it didn't work. But throughout this, it's, when it was Mayor Palmieri, and that's all I'm bringing that up because that's all I can compare it to. We were a part of the process early on. We were in conversations year round, and those relationships aren't there anymore.
Well, he made it very easy, though, didn't he? There was never a tax increase.
There were those two. And, we pushed it at the end. We were fighting for at least 1%, something to get it up there. And that wasn't the case. But now it's, those relationships aren't there. And I think that's not just aside from the budget. That's something the mayor also needs to work on in this coming year of how do we get there? Because it's not, you can't just come around for budget season and now you want something from us.
What's your largest amendment that will save the most that you feel will be most appealing to Mayor Galimi?
I'm hoping, they brought up the fact that CDBG, that was something the Republicans proposed. And it wasn't really clear what their plan was, but I put in here, I was also thinking of utilizing those funds, and it could easily be used to supplement our youth bureau count line. That's about $700,000. And the same way that we were able to meet those demographics for Utica Safe Schools, we can also do it for CDBG. And again, I'm not saying pave less. I'm saying just pave the amount we need to and use these extra funds for the city. Will he go for it? That's on his administration to do the work. But then even with the CHIPS money, I like these proposals for reallocating the city funds because it means he still gets his budget, but now he only has to come down another $700,000 in expenses. That's out of a $93 million budget.
Yeah. Do you find it ironic? I think it is interesting to look at that how opposite this is of national politics, because Democrats normally are fighting to raise money, to increase taxes, and Republicans traditionally are fighting to no tax increase. Here, the Republicans are looking for a tax increase 2 years in a row, and it's the Democrats that are fighting.
Yeah, I'm laughing at, and that's where I keep hearing them say that we're doing party politics. Like, this is very opposite. If anything, I was one fighting for more police officers at the end of December meeting.
But
to keep the sunset.
It is party politics. You have Democrats. Well, it may not be national party politics, but you have Democrats.
But we are on opposite.
You're on opposite sides, so I would say this is probably party. That's a fair assessment.
It's part of that.
Yeah, and you just said that he hasn't had the relationships,
right?
So that would mean he's not. Yeah. He is not paving a strong relationship with Democrats. So Democrats are standing against the Republican mayor. I'd call that party politics.
There's a part of that. Yeah, you have to be good at politics, and that's not even trying to screw. We're not trying to screw anybody with this budget. We're not trying to hurt anybody. We firmly believe that 25% in 2 years is wrong. Everybody else's expenses throughout New York State are going up. Why is Utica the only one reaching for taxes like this? Again,
the no incremental tax increase for over 10 years.
But he said he balanced the budget last year, right? And then he got another $3 million from the state, and now he wants another $3 million from taxpayers. Yeah. Every time a mandated expense goes up, are we just going to keep raising taxes? And then I'm confused because he's saying he was never going to actually do the 9.8%. He was going to be fine with 6% or something. Put out a budget you believe in.
Well, the comptroller said maybe 3 to 4% was where he would have seen it falling on this program. He said that.
But we're gambling with $1 million of taxpayer money, so it's just not clear to me.
All right.
And
so going forward, this you will introduce these tonight to the council, so everybody will get them tonight. Yep. They'll have what comes Friday. You said
we put out another meeting just in case the mayor is going to work with us and reply to us by Friday of what amendments he would like. We're willing to prioritize the ones he wants, and that's the thing. You can't do all $4 million. You could, but this would be at a negative tax increase. We would have a decrease at that point, and some of them contradict each other. So we're just asking him to take the lead of what he does like. So if that's the case, we can start passing them early enough. So then we can actually vote the budget and know the exact amount on Wednesday.
And your proposals have in no way have the mayor dipping into the fund balance.
Well, the mayor put in his fund balance draw as it is, but so we're not going further into the fund
obviously balance. A strong fund balance means a strong credit rating. Yep. It's very important for the economics of everything. All right. Anything else you want to add here?
That's just, it's budget
Chances
season,
are on the 19th you vote on this and this is all put to bed.
Yes, ideally. And these are reasonable amendments, and we're asking everybody to take a look at them.
Okay.
So they're all published. Thank you.
All right, Katie, 2 days in a row.
I know. Look at us.
I don't know what's going on. Crazy. Thank you.
WIBX. This is Keeler. WIBX 950 and 92.3 FM. Now back to the Keeler Show.
Good God. Keeler moment right there. By the way, Friday morning we will be broadcasting live from Tony's in Washington Mills. It's a free breakfast. You come, you get free breakfast. And Andrew Derminio, it'll be a little send-off for him. And celebrating the Tony's Pizzeria in Washington Mills buffet, that grand Italian buffet from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. They do dinner and lunch now. All right, responding to councilperson Katie Aiello is the comptroller in Utica, Bill Morehouse. William, good morning.
Hey, I was going to come on and just say we are all no dumber for having listened. I'm not going to say that. Here's the situation. Yesterday at ENA, I asked Katie, look, the mayor's at 9.7, you're at 2%. Can you work with the mayor? She says yes. And I said, okay, if you work together and get it down to 4%, you still have to override the tax limit. She said absolutely not. Well, I'm sorry, that's not working with the mayor. You know, if you get it down to 4%, Bill, you still have to override the tax limit. That's the responsible thing to do. They're not being responsible. This is a fiscally smart budget. Taxes, are going to go up because retirement's going up, health insurance going up, and our revenues are not going up, and our main source of revenue is the people. Can we get this down to 4 or 5%? Yes, but you still have to, and that'll be a tight budget, but you still have to override the tax cap.
Here's a question,
though. They're not being
though.
Responsible. They're not willing to work with the mayor.
Here's a question. I mean, you're saying this. Have you seen her amendments? The amendments that they put forth?
I have seen them. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And do you think what's your opinion?
I mean, some of them are feasible, and some of them are just silly, stupid, actually. But you have to work with the mayor. You get it down to even 3%. You still have to override.
You still got to override it.
She says she's willing to work with the mayor, but then she says we're not willing to override the tax cap. Well, that's not working with the mayor.
Okay.
So she's not willing to work with the mayor. She's blowing smoke. She's getting her name out there. She needs to get something off the residency thing because who knows where she lives. And we need to move forward.
That ship has probably sailed out of the harbor, but
that's good. The ship sailed. Katie O'Ell needs to work with the mayor. Needs to work with the mayor. Otherwise, if you don't, Bill, no matter what amendments they do, if it's over 2%, this thing goes back to the mayor's original budget, 9.7. ENA will pass it through, and does that do her constituents any good?
Right.
I don't think so. So, we need to work together. We can get this and keep it a good budget at 4 or 5%, and that's what we need to do.
All right.
The Democrats are not willing. My party's not willing to do that, and it's unfortunate.
All right. Very interesting. Do you find it ironic, though, that the Democrats are asking for no tax increase and it's the Republicans asking for the tax increase? I find that just a little ironic considering the national the national look.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't go with national.
These are local politics.
I think that, yeah, right. This is more about being against the mayor rather than caring about a tax increase.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's a lot of blowing smoke. But
all right.
You need to work together. You need to do a fiscally sound budget, and you need to move forward. That means you need to be responsible and override the sales tax,
all right.
the property tax cap.
Comptroller Bill Morehouse, thank you so much for the call. We appreciate it. Thanks. Well, there you go. That's the word from the comptroller. We'll get into a little more of this coming up.
This is Anthony Constantino, CEO of Sticker Mule. I'm a proud Trump supporter, running for Congress for the seat being vacated by Elise Stefanik. I built a successful internet company with nearly 1,000 people in upstate New York. However, much of upstate New York suffers from lack of access to high-speed internet that's necessary to build great companies and enable high-paying remote jobs. In fact, much of our district lacks access to strong, dependable cell phone service too. Of course, we must have both for public safety and to grow the economy. When elected to Congress, I will work quickly with President Trump to fix this problem. With high-speed internet, dependable cell service, and by renewing President Trump's tax cuts, both for businesses and individuals, we will create jobs and return economic prosperity to upstate New York. Follow me, Anthony Constantino, on Facebook today to learn more about my plans to make New York great again. I'm Anthony Constantino, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Constantino for Congress.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. It's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is the place for skilled skydiving instructors, accomplished airbrush artists, and proficient pediatricians. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter to hire, you're missing out. ZipRecruiter is the place that's so confident it can make your hiring easier that it lets you try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. So if you want the right candidates for all your roles, ZipRecruiter is the place to go. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX.
Some guy in the 315 on YouTube says, when will they change dog laws to be more like babies, where you can give your dogs up when you can't take care of them anymore? And you at first you hear that question and it seems kind of odd. But I do think that one of the problems is when you turn an animal in, they charge you. And sometimes it can be over $300-400 to turn an animal in.
Exactly.
If you can't handle that dog and you're willing to give the dog up, we got to figure out a way to solve that problem, because if there's somebody that feels they can't afford the $300 or the $400 or whatever it is, this leads to crazy people just dropping a dog off on at a farm, or in this case, abandoning the dog at the Humane Society, thinking that would be okay, but the dog dies.
Yeah, and also you have people who go on Craigslist, give away the dog for free, and then nefarious people grab it for certain reasons.
All
It's
sorts
terrible.
of things. That, so I agree with that guy in the 315. Sheriff Mitchell, your thoughts on that topic?
As an animal guy, I love animals, as you know. There is a process, though. I know, in some cases, if you can't afford it, there are multiple non-for-profits that will assist in finding a good home. You may have to keep it for a bit, and they'll provide you with food and whatnot for the animal. I mean, there's no excuse for someone to go to the Humane Society and to just drop, in this case, a puppy over the fence. Like I said, there's a process. There are many, many people who, just will do anything for an animal, as we know. But it's just, and I don't know the circumstances. When we will hopefully figure this out. As you know, we do have a case on it, and obviously, more than likely will lead to criminal charges. But I don't know. Is this a mental health case? Is
right. You don't know.
Criminal case. I mean, there's a lot of different factors. We just don't know the answers to this point. But if there are people out there that have an animal, they can't take care of it, please don't abandon it. Please don't do what this person did. Please reach out to us and or anybody for that matter. Like I said, we work with multiple rescues and non-for-profits every single day. And there's a way we can help you out.
I got to tell you, Sheriff, I guarantee you, if we got a phone call this morning and it was somebody that said, listen, whatever their reason is, I can't take care of this dog, and it's a nice dog. I can't afford to take it to the Humane Society or wherever because they're charging. I just want to give it to someone, to a good home. I would almost bet there'd be 10 people on the line ready to take the animal.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And then there are people who are in a position with a little more room that can assist with larger animals. That's kind of how we ended up with 7 horses here on the farm. My wife is a horse lover, and she's rescued 4 of our horses are rescues. When we say rescue, they're retired from the racetrack, and before they did a great career on the racetrack. So, we have 2 from Vernon, 1 from the Meadowlands. We have 1 that traveled all across the country. But unfortunately, when they retire, they end up in an auction.
Yeah.
And they 9 times out of 10 they end up in a bad place, and that's how we end up with so many horses here. Yeah.
Well, we had a greyhound, and when you said rescue, I was picturing your wife actually going to the ranch and stealing the horse out of there. And
I'll help her.
And
if she wants someone to go riding with her, I'll go.
And I got to tell you, because that with greyhounds, that's what they do. They go to there's a track below Providence in Rhode Island, and people who feel it's inhumane to race these dogs will go in and steal the dogs. So
So what happens a lot of times with racehorses, because because of their breed and their stamina and what'll happen a lot is they'll end up, and not that it's a bad thing when they're taken care of, but they'll end up on the back of an Amish buggy for the rest of their life. Going on 30-mile trips every day. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because there are a lot of Amish people who take very, very good care of their horses. Those horses are like their cars.
Yeah.
But there are some who don't. And that's, like I said, that's why I have so many horses here, that I'm actually looking at them right now. They're outside standing in the snow wanting to know when it's going to go away.
When is the snow going to go away? Wayne, stand by. I'll get you on with the sheriff. But first, though, this story involving Clinton. You may be seeing patrol cars, Oneida County Sheriff patrol cars in Clinton. What's going on?
Yes. So a couple of years ago, the mayor of Clinton, she reached out to me because let me back up a little bit. 1994, the village of Clinton had a police department, their own, for many, many years. In 1994, it was abolished, or it closed its doors, the village police department, and they contracted with the town of Kirkland Police to dedicate a car to be in the village limits in Clinton. That agreement has been in place since, like I said, I believe 1994, somewhere around there. And at the time, Kirkland Police Department was had more employees. Over time, like everyone else, I'm assuming they're struggling with staffing. But past couple of years, the mayor has saw a decrease, according to her, saw a decrease in the presence of the Kirkland Police. In turn, they're paying for a service. Their residents are, want to see more police. Businesses want to see more police. So she reached out initially 2 years ago. At the time, I was not in a position with our staffing because we had a bunch of different things going on. We had several recruits in the police academy. I wasn't in a position to assist. She reached out several months ago for a second time. We sat, and her frustrations, and again, I'm not saying anything negative, because I work very well with the Kirkland Police. Sean Acapinti, their chief, is a great kid. I know him well. But apparently they're just not in a position to have a car dedicated to Clinton as much as they used to. So the mayor requested us to be able to do, or for us to do that. I do have the staffing to be able to handle that. We've been doing things not only in that community, but every other community in the county anyways. And, we're able to give them a little bit of an enhanced presence. And as of yesterday, a couple of weeks ago, I believe the village board, they first unanimously signed the agreement. And then yesterday, the Board of Legislators, it goes through a committee process. Yeah. First, it passed Public Safety Committee last week. Yesterday in the morning, it passed the Ways and Means. And then yesterday in the afternoon, it passed the United County Board of Legislators unanimously. And we will, starting next week, we'll have a car dedicated, not 24/7, but a car dedicated up to 96 hours a week. I'm not going to say exactly when we're going to be there for public safety reasons, but we're going to have a much greater presence there. And it's a one-year contract. We're going to try it out, see how it goes, and evaluate it and see how both parties feel, 9 months from now, to see if we renew and continue, or, who knows? I don't know. Does Kirkland bounce back with staffing and then they take over? There's a lot of scenarios. This is just another opportunity for us to help a community in need, and obviously they're going to be paying us $170,000 a year to offset our cost of giving them an enhanced presence there in the community.
So if you see a sheriff's patrol car in Clinton, you'll know exactly why. All right,
and
Sheriff.
Sounds good.
Let me bring in Wayne with a quick question for you. Wayne, you're on with Sheriff Rob Mashel.
First of all, they ought to have, for the Greyhounds, they ought to have a senior tour like they do in golf.
Right, they should have.
When they're done,
right.
Bring them into a senior, a senior racing tour.
I'm telling you, these Greyhounds are not, when they come from a racetrack, they are not, I don't want to say not domesticated, they are not house-ticated.
They're high-strung.
Oh, yes. And listen, I came home once, we had the dog in an area that was like a crate, and it got out of that area and was stuck on our dining room table. Somehow that dog climbed up on top of it but couldn't get down. And it's odd because
so confused.
Greyhounds they won't climb stairs. So it's really quite interesting. Anyway, Wayne, your question for the sheriff.
I hope you got a photo.
my question was, okay, say if somebody couldn't have the dog, right? They literally go right up to the door of the Humane Society and they say, there's no way possible I could keep this dog. I'm moving. I can't have the dog because if they don't allow it in the new apartment I'm going in, I can't take it. Now, they can refuse it, or what do you do if I just leave it right there? What happens from that point?
Well, depending on which Humane Society, because we have two in our community here. There are many across the state.
Stephen Swan, we're talking.
Right, but again, what I was going to say, Wayne, is I don't know their specific policy because I know that there are differences, whether we're talking the Rome one, Anita's, Susquehanna. I mean, there are, and some are.
But my point is, do you have, as a person or a citizen, have the right to go up? They don't want anybody just leaving the dog there because of the cold or whatever, leaving it unattended. Do you have the option to go there and just say, I can't? There's no way I can keep it. I don't want to just leave it here.
If they say no, you can't. That's.
Right, they're a private. I mean, they're not a public entity. They're a non-for-profit, basically governed by a body, a board of directors. So yeah. I'm sure they have a policy, and sure they can refuse. And if you put it there and walk away, you're probably under Ag and Market's going to face some kind of abandonment charge. But I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to research that for you specifically, Wayne.
Wayne, call.
Thank you for your time.
I would hope.
All right, Wayne.
All right.
Wayne, all you got to do is call the radio station. I'm telling you, we'll get rid of that dog.
Oh yeah, I know. I don't have that problem, but I know a person that did it. Okay, thank you guys.
All right, Wayne. Thank you, Sheriff. As always, you're always here to whatever the question is. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Sounds good. Have a great day, guys.
All right, you
Bye-bye.
do the same, Sheriff Rob Mashel.
BME Company Business Machines and Equipment has been delivering office solutions for businesses in upstate New York for over 30 years. Their success comes from finding the right document management strategies and software solutions for streamlining workflows. Simply put, BME provides fast, reliable service at the best value to keep your business running smoothly. Through BME's strategic partnership with Hummel's Office Plus, they distribute supplies for just about every machine in your office at a great price. BME welcomes the opportunity to serve your business, selling, leasing, and servicing Canon and Kyocera devices, as well as FP mailing solutions. An important part of BME's culture is supporting the communities they're fortunate to work in, and BME recognizes that support is one reason for their success. The future of business in BME's area is encouraging, and the company is grateful to be a part of that growth. Call BME Company at 315-574-8200 or visit BMEcompany.com. BME Company Office Solutions. Made simple.
Clearing out your home or commercial building, John's Cleanouts and Property Preservation will handle it for you. We handle residential or any size commercial property, before and after estate sale cleanouts or any junk removal service. John's Cleanouts and Property Preservation is a 5-star rated and background checked business, providing service you can count on, and we're fully insured in the industry. Call John's Cleanouts and Property Preservation today and take the stress out of your mess.
Keep your Bobcat machines up and running this season, no matter how bad winter gets, with regular service from Warner Sales and Service in Rome, New York. Their factory-trained technicians are committed to keeping your Bobcat machines operating smoothly day after day, job after job, with genuine Bobcat parts. So keep going and keep earning, even in the coldest weather, with regular service on your Bobcat machines from Warner Sales and Service in Rome. Genuine Bobcat parts and service. Why use anything else? Stop by your authorized Bobcat dealer, Warner Sales and Service in Rome. Online at warnerss.com.
First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX.
Time now for Jeremy Rosenthal's Rosenthal Report.
The Rosenthal Report.
Okay.
That was the wrong button. Hold on.
Yeah, I'd quit while you were ahead.
There.
I don't know. Jeremy, I might enjoy this more than I enjoy Andrew doing it, to be honest. I like a little...
This is great.
A little humor.
Look, it's nuanced. No, this is not funny. No, that was serious. And I really saw, I was like, that's the perfect rim shot. And by the way, just so you know, I'm just letting everybody out there know I will be winning the $1 million.
You're gonna. That's right.
For the bracket challenge. That's right here.
We all know that that perfect bracket is a hard one to hit, but I got to say, not bad. A $10,000 consolation if you don't have a perfect bracket. You could win that $10,000. So. But congratulations on your perfect bracket. Who's winning it all, by the way? Who's your pick?
That's the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Okay, all right.
That would be yes. Not that I went there, and I was there when they lost the national championship in 2019 in overtime. Yeah, but we're going to do it this year.
This year's the year.
So there you go.
This is the year.
This is the year.
Listen, our man Davey is saying Duke gets knocked out in the Elite Eight, so I'll be okay to see that. I'm not the biggest Duke fan in the world.
Yeah.
So, all right, we have three top. Then, Jeremy, there is so much going on just in the world of politics and where politics meets the legal world. If you're in the legal world, your head has got to be spinning at this point.
Absolutely. You've got the Chief Justice coming out, and look, they don't make public statements very often,
right?
So clearly, the rhetoric that has been going around is unnerving to the point where John Roberts would come out and say, hey, we don't impeach judges just because we don't like how they rule.
Yeah.
Now, everybody does need to kind of calm down and take a step back. We are not in the middle of a constitutional crisis.
Right.
There is a lot of rhetoric. That's how America goes. The President of the United States has not defied a U.S. Supreme Court order. And if he has defied a lower court order, he has the opportunity to say, well, this is why this happened this way. You told me to turn the plane around. We didn't have enough fuel. So we are not there yet, but there is a lot of rhetoric.
That's a very good point. And this whole thing where, there was an out. The plane was already in the air. We misunderstood. We didn't think you meant turn the plane around. There's a lot there. But if there becomes, yet Democrats continue to say constitutional crisis, impeachment. Calm. I think you say it best. It's time you got to calm down. And I do think that Roberts coming out yesterday was trying to set the pace to say, all right, let's everyone act appropriately here and not do anything stupid.
Right. And as a lawyer, I'll tell you this much. So when we talk about the rule of law, here's what it means to Jeremy. Not that it ought to mean this to everybody.
Yeah.
But what the rule of law means to me is this: the Supreme Court does not have an army. They don't, and the Supreme Court, we do what the courts say because we do what judges say in this country.
Right.
We are America, and when somebody in a robe, somebody in a uniform, in a police officer uniform, tells me what to do, I typically do it. Right. Barring something really wacko or my sobriety, I do it. And if somebody in a robe tells me to do something, I do it. And that goes for Jeremy all the way up to the President of the United States. And so anytime you're in a situation where judges they're not above criticism, but you can't ignore them. And there's a lot of rhetoric going back and forth. And I think there's a lot of frustration from the administration saying, listen, these are dangerous people. We're trying to do our jobs. The American people elected us to fix immigration. And, and there's a lot of really common denominator arguments that we have heard over the decades when it comes to a federal judge shutting down nationwide things. And it's not the first time it's happened, and it won't be the last time it's happened. And presidents have always grumbled. They've done it. They've listened to the courts, but they've always kind of moaned under their breath when they get these kinds of rulings.
And I do think that you mentioned rule of law. It is amazing how we follow, just because it's what we do in a civilized nation, in a democratic nation like the United States, right down to when the light turns red, you stop. There's no invisible wall there to prevent you. Chances are there's not a cop, but we stop because it's just how things work. And you have a fence around your house. You realize it's not, somebody can easily climb over that fence. Someone sees the fence, it's like, oh, I can't get in. It's just the way we operate. And that goes all the way, as you say, all the way to the White House. So if it ever gets to the point where we don't follow the rule of law, that'll be a completely different story. And I have a feeling we'll know it when we see it, if it ever happens. Right?
quoting Miller versus California, that's the definition for obscenity, by the way, which you just repeated. I'll know when I see it. Yeah,
That's great.
True. It is.
That's awesome. All right, let's throw some topics out. To attorney Jeremy Rosenthal. Topic 1, Trump expelling hundreds under the Enemies Act as a judge blocks the plan. It's exactly what we're talking about. What do you think?
Yeah, look, we've talked about it before. The Republicans have a razor-thin majority in Congress. They have to reach across the aisle just to avert a government shutdown. They're not able to pass any really sweeping immigration reform. So the president talks to some of his nerdy 20-something, 30-something-year-old staffers and say, what's out there, right? They go to the basement of Hogwarts, they blow off the book, and they find the Alien Enemies Act, which allows the president to deport you if we're in a time of war. And they said, this one looks okay, we'll try it. I'm all for creative lawyering.
Yeah.
They try it, and then it gets shut down by a federal judge. In this instance, mid-flight. And now basically the federal judge has put this on pause, and we're going to see where this goes and if this act is going to work for the president's deportation plans.
That, by the way, the Enemies Act of 1798. So, although I believe it was used during World War II, right?
It's got an infamous history. It has been used in World War I, World War II. It was what they justified the Japanese internment with.
Right,
so
right.
that's the negative stigma with it.
It is interesting because I'll have people say, "Well, look at Biden defied the courts with the student loan forgiveness," and it's not really what happened. They tried another legal approach and they were shot down. Right?
Same difference. And look, George W. Bush wanted to prosecute people a certain way in Guantanamo. That got shut down. A federal judge where I'm from, in 30 miles north of me in Sherman, Texas, shut down overtime pay from the Obama administration for the entire nation. This is Marbury versus Madison. It's how it works.
It's how it works. Topic 2, we're staying in line with the topic today. In California, a federal judge said California cannot enforce a state law on children's online safety. What is this one?
This is an interesting free speech issue. When we talk about regulating online content, the motion of the ocean that I see from my tower is that you have content-based regulation, which is presumptively going to be invalid, versus we're going to make you tweak your algorithm. That has been upheld. In California, they basically they passed a law that said that Facebook, Instagram, Meta, Twitter, all of these companies, X, you guys have to show us your plan for minors. And if you don't show us a plan, you have to treat everybody like they're minors. And these companies all sort of combine to say, well, hold on, are you telling us what the content that we're supposed to do? Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And because that's a content-based regulation, it has to survive what the courts call strict scrutiny, which means you got to make it perfect in order to get there. And so this one is looking like it's going to the wayside.
All right. And then the third topic, Supreme Court taking up the state bans on conversion therapy for LGBTQ plus children. And this one goes to Colorado. What's this case?
Okay, this is the most fascinating legal wormhole of the week. Conversion therapy is highly, highly controversial. That is where somebody who is either coming out of the closet or claims to be LGBTQ plus is sent as a minor to somebody who is, pardon the way that it's put, but to pray the gay away, right?
Right.
To go to some sort of religious-based faith,
Yes, we can cure you. We're going to cure you.
Right. The theory is that homosexuality is some sort of a mental illness, and the state of Colorado is saying, look, we're not going to license you, right? If we're going to license lawyers, Jeremy, you can advise people on the Fourth Amendment. You can advise people on Miranda warnings. You can't advise them about Mercury being in retrograde. We're not going to license that.
Yeah.
But here's the issue. Don't I have a free speech issue or right to talk to my client about the fact that they're an Aries and that the judge is a Libra and that we got problems and we need to plead because of that, at some point it does really become a First Amendment issue. So I do think it's kind of fascinating.
All of these, I got to tell you something. Having you, even though it's once a week, your legal mind in the middle of everything we're going through to bring us back down to planet Earth and ground us just a bit is just amazing, and we appreciate it tremendously.
Well, you said that like a true Taurus. I'm thinking in my mind. Okay.
Oh, now it's appropriate. Are you ready? Boom. There you go. The Rosenthal Report. Jeremy, have a great week. We'll talk again next week. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, Jeremy Rosenthal. Love that report.
Mattress Express's closeout sale on brand new leftover inventory and floor models. Right now, buy a king or queen and get a free adjustable base. Take up to 5 years to pay with no money down for qualified buyers and no credit check payment plans available as well.
Stop by White's Farm Supply today to see how Cub Cadet commercial equipment is built for business. Now through March 31st, take 20% off all Cub Cadet commercial lawnmowers built to endure the demands of serious landscapers with powerful engines, wide cutting decks, and premium comfort. Don't delay. Head to White's Farm Supply today. Inventory may vary by dealer. Cannot be applied with any other discount. No cash value except where prohibited. Promotion is subject to change. Other restrictions may apply. Call your dealer or visit cubcadet.com for details.
We're the power and power equipment. White's Farm Supply.
Easter reminds us that new beginnings are possible. You can help the Rome Rescue Mission provide the chance for a new beginning for a family in our area. It is the Rome Rescue Mission's goal to help families in need to celebrate this Easter season. You can help a family of 5 this Easter with your generous support of $25. For $25, the Rome Rescue Mission will provide a family of 5 with a hot meal and give them a memorable Easter celebration. A feeling of safety, a feeling of knowing that someone cares. From there, a person can rebuild a life. Through resurrection power comes freedom from the past and an unlimited future. Everyone deserves a chance at a new beginning. Won't you help make that happen for families in our area this season? Rome Rescue Mission, giving hope and loving the lost. Please donate now at romemission.org. That's romemission.org. Rome Rescue Mission, a hand up, not a handout.
It's Amerique Credit Union's 75th anniversary, and our new checking account rate is worth celebrating. For a limited time, open an Amerique High Rate checking and earn an unprecedented rate on your first $10,000. Get started at amerique.org/high rate.
Hey, Central New York, it's Brian Kilmeade. Join me after Keeler, starting at 9 a.m., only on WIBX, 950 a.m. and 92.3 FM.
Ray Stajic is with us from the Weather Channel. We have an amazingly beautiful day on the way today, but then things don't seem to cooperate going forward. Let's bring in Ray right now from the Weather Channel. Good morning.
Hey, Bill. Good morning.
I would say things don't cooperate, but if we were back 2 weeks ago when it was snowing and blowing, we'd be like 40 degrees. That's awesome. It's going to be a heat wave.
Yeah, and, you know, people were probably out in their Bermuda shorts. And
Yes.
what are they going to do today?
Yeah, today. Yeah. Oh, Lordy. There'll be nothing on today.
Yeah, but with that, you know, there's been some concern about how dry it is, too. There's low dew points, low relative humidity. And it's kind of strange because we have this and we've got sunny, beautiful weather today, but elsewhere, you know, where we've had the deeper snowpack, especially up on Tuckahoe, Jefferson, and Lewis counties, there's actually a flood warning that remains in effect for melting snow along the Black River. So there are areas in Lewis County downstream to Watertown where there may be some minor flooding going on. And but then you see that and you see active snow melt and you say, well, why has the Weather Service put out this statement about the dangerous fire conditions?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we really have to understand it doesn't mean that, you know, everywhere that there's either going to be A, fire ignition or B, actually fires burning. You know, I couldn't find any looking at all the maps, but there is an elevated risk of wildfire spread today in central New York. So low relative humidity, gusty winds, and sunshine and warm temperatures too. So what that means, if you are, I guess you would say, handling ignition sources, you know, let's go from worst to maybe best case scenario. You know, if there is outdoor burning going on, you have to be careful with that. If there is any ignition sources such as parking cars in a dry area, sometimes they say that can ignite some kind of brush fire. You know, machinery, cigarettes, matches. Just be careful. Anything that has to do with that.
I was about to say people who are like throwing cigarette butts out of their car as they're driving.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, that doesn't sound, you know, like realistic, but it is. It's realistic that it's dangerously dry and it doesn't take much for ignition. And if that does happen with the wind and the dry conditions, that would mean that any fire that did actually spark or develop would spread rapidly, have the opportunity to spread rapidly if it had a fire source around it.
One of the things that really surprises me, and I understand that if you go north, there's still a lot of snow. It'll be like Twilight Zone if you travel north.
It's like a boundary. You pass a line.
They travel to us, and they're looking at what they look at as the Twilight Zone. But I can't believe how quickly the 5-6 foot banks melted to nothing in my front yard this week. I thought we'd be at least into April before that snow went away.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's how warm it got and how quickly we got there. And, you know, rain and fog are really the snow eaters. So when you get that, I mean, that snowpack can diminish pretty quickly. We got a little more rain coming. And then as we look ahead toward tomorrow night into Friday morning, there could be some snow showers. I think it's just more like snow showers where people are like, holy cow, it's snowing again. Nothing accumulating, though. It just isn't that time of year. And then I do think into the weekend we trend a little bit cooler and even on into next week, too. So there'll be some opportunities for precip that'll help with this fire danger and the elevated risk we have today. So I don't think this is going to last long. And some opportunities for precipitation. I don't see a bunch, no big storms, but at least some help there. I do want to note, too, I talked about outdoor burning. Reading down a little bit further, there's actually a statewide burn ban is in effect right now. So they're not permitting anybody to do that until May 14th. So.
And I got to say that downstate, they really have not had much snow at all. And
or precipitation.
It's dry there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it is. Deficits above 3-4 inches. And, you know, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's only March.
Yeah.
So that's from the beginning of the year. So when you got precipitation deficits in the 3-4 inch range, and that continues. I mean, we're going to be talking about this potentially all summer. But right now,
good.
Shorter term. Yeah, you know.
From the Stanley Theater Studio, WIBX Utica, Rome. W295EI. WIBX 950 and 92.3 FM, a Town Square media station.